go there instead of to the MLS?
Well, I'll tell you what, I worked there and it has been around for many years. But one thing that I've heard from commercial realtors here or agents is that they believe, and I know it because I work there, that it is expensive. So that's why there's other platforms out there. And I know El Paso, for one, I don't know if they've done it already, but they were looking to create their own. But CoStar is expensive. And that's why, I mean, but they do well, of course. So
They do. And I'll summarize it for you because I see a few other terms getting thrown around in the chat, and some people are mentioning LoopNet. Let me say that
LoopNet, yeah, that's CoStar.
it's part of the CoStar family, but it's
Yeah.
not the same. And I'll put this out there and then we'll cover it again later. But in case some of you are not going to necessarily finish this certification with me and you end up with another instructor who may not cover it, I don't know. CoStar is our big old CIE. That's our Commercial Information Exchange. That's where all of the data is that you're going to find about commercial properties that people bothered to report. Texas is a non-disclosure state, which means we don't have to tell you anything. It's just that because you all have chosen to be realtor members, you agreed to disclose in the MLS your sales data and your leasing data. Well, in the commercial world, if you're not part of this organization, then you don't necessarily have to. In fact, you'll find it quite normal that non-disclosures are and confidentiality agreements are normal. But when you can share data, it goes to Commercial Gateway, CoStar. CoStar will list for you all the data you need about who's on a property, price per square foot,
Yeah.
operating expenses or triple nets. You'll get to see expiration dates of some of the large anchor tenants so that you'll know, hey, look, turns out HEB is leaving in 2 years and they're not going to renew. Maybe I don't want to move there. You're going to get to see a lot of stuff. The difficult information, even though if you're going to get it, it's going to be there in CoStar, is going to be sales data. Lots of people who own property opt not to share sales prices, final prices for sale. That's a harder one to come by, but if you do find it, it'll be there or in your respective Commercial Gateway databases. Now, there is LoopNet, and LoopNet's part of the CoStar family, but let me draw this line of distinction. LoopNet is just the listing side. It's all that's going to happen in LoopNet is listed properties. You're not getting sales data. That's not where you go for that. That's where you list stuff. Now, it's a great place to start because, to Martha's point, CoStar is expensive. Over here in Houston, it's 400 plus a month. A month. You'd better be doing big business if you're going to bother to get the membership. But there's a couple of catches here. One, if you're going to list anything, a lease or a building for sale, if you're going to list anything, you're going to list in LoopNet, you have to pay for that. And I think they actually have you get a subscription or a membership, right? That's going to cost you a little money. But did you know that even without being a member or having any kind of subscription to CoStar, you can list for free in CoStar? You don't have to have a $400 a month membership. The hitch in the giddy up is you won't be able to see it because you're not a member. But everybody else out there that is a member, they will see it. You will get calls on your listing. So don't be afraid to call CoStar. Say, hi, this is Gilbert Padilla. I've got a listing, and let me help you put it up. You want to email me the pictures? Gilbert, I'll put it up for you. Give me the information about expenses, sales price if you have it, et cetera, et cetera. Now, this is what you do as time goes on, Gilbert. Your sales rep is going to call you every now and then and ask you, do you need to update your listing? Maybe the price went up, maybe the price went down. I don't know, something changed. New flyer pictures, I don't know. But then they may ask you, Gilbert, is there anything else I can help you with? Anything I could do for you today? And one of these days, because you've built the relationship with the CoStar rep, guess what you can do, Gilbert? You can say, well, are you able to run some comps for me right quick? And if you've got that personality, every now and then that sales rep will say, well, sure, I don't mind what you got. And I've managed sometimes. My sales rep hooks me up and helps me out because I do more of this now than I do transactions. So on occasion, she'll hook me up with some comps, and that's without the membership. So, I mean, it's a relationship thing, but it is the database. Now, the last thing y'all need to know about CoStar is this. If you are going to be working with a tenant who wants to lease out space or a landlord who's looking to consider a tenant, there is something called the cash flow analysis tool. Who's seen this tool? Has anyone used it? So Gabrielle, have you used it? It looks like Lou has used it. Now Gabrielle's chewing. Lou, you want to step in? She finishes.
What's it
Tell
called
me.
again, Fish? What's that called?
It's called the cash flow analysis tool. Lou and then Gabrielle, why don't you tell us what that tool is good for? Because it's amazing. Lou is looking for that mute button. Lou, hit that button. Don't we hate Zoom's mute? Can you, let me see if I can unmute you. Gabrielle, go for it while we work on Lou's mute button. Oh, there he is. There he is. He's got it. Oh, Lord.
Go ahead, Gabrielle.
Oh, so he was trying to tell me to go ahead. So for me, I've used it for the investment side. When I first got in, we were in development. And so people wanted to see that dirt to building ratio. And then from there, it was the investor wanting to see his ROI. And so it just gave you it made you look like the CPA, though you're not, but it put it on paper and you were pretty.
You were pretty. That's on the investor side. Lou, how did you use it with your client? Lou,
The same way. It allows you to see the numbers, and then commercial buyers and sellers are all about the bottom line. So that helps them make a decision.
very much so. And even on the tenant side, my friends, Daphne and Josh, I got to tell you guys, Miss Myhan, let me tell you, even from a lease point of view, some of you may be out there working with tenants who have a certain set of terms you put in an LOI, you know, a letter of intent, and this is what I want. But the landlord turns you down and says, look, I can only offer you this base rent with that triple net, and I'll give you this much to build out the space, but I need you to go from a 5-year to a 7-year lease. And you're thinking, they're just trying to get more money out of me. A cash flow analysis tool will let you plug in all the numbers that the landlord is proposing. And with one click of a switch in this upper corner here, you'll get to flip the transaction from the tenant's view to a landlord's view. And it will show you how long it's going to take for a landlord to make any money based on the terms you put on the table. And it will let you see this landlord's not being fraudulent. They're not trying to scam you out of extra time or extra money, but to make this deal worth it to them, this is the kind of skin I need in the game. It will also let you do this. And no, you have to have a membership to get all this. You are going to have to pay for this, Max. You can show someone who is leasing a property with this cash flow analysis tool. You can show them over the course of 3, 4, 5, whatever years, how much it's going to cost every single year to lease that space, all the increases, everything. And at the end of the term, I would have spent, $3.5 million. That was cheaper than the sales price of the building, some people discover. And that tool will turn a lease into a sale for you. You'd be shocked. I love that tool. So it's not a bad idea to get it if you're committing to this. It's got fantastic tools and, I see that. Thank you. And if you're in Houston, I know this about Houston, I don't know any place else, plan a field trip over to the Galleria area to the CoStar offices. First of all, they're pretty cool to look at, but they'll walk you through the software so you can see it in action. Let them run you through it. It's pretty cool. So it's CoStar, just go to their website, but you'll have to pay for the membership to get access to the tool. Just wanted to let you know. Who is the proctor for GEPAR? Who is that Proctor?
It's Hilda.
Hi, Hilda. There's a note in chat for you. Go up about 3 comments. Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna move. I don't want to say it out loud. It's about 3 or 4 comments up. Look up in the comments there. I'm trying to be discreet and I'm not doing a very good job of it. Did you see it, Hilda? In the chat. All right, my friends, we are moving now to sponsors really quickly because someone asked about it just before we left. I think it was
I
Miss
did.
My hand, exactly. And our sponsors, they actually run a transaction for investors a lot of times. This can be a person, a lot of times it's a group of people. And there's a lot of professionals who have different sections in the group. Lawyers, you know, they've got CPAs and just all kinds of people, investment bankers and folks who specialize in some different aspect that will guide investors, especially institutional investors like groups that are doing pension fund investments. They'll guide them through should they acquire a property, should they dispose of property, and they'll help the institutional investors out. So a lot of times their services are needed to assist with that. Not everybody that's a sponsor is a real estate agent. So you may find yourself dealing with other licensees who do other things for a living. So sponsors are an interesting group of folk. I don't find that they all do everything the same way, but you definitely, if you're going to work with an investor who works with sponsors, get to know these folks because they're the ones that are speaking for the investors. We've also got y'all, ta-da, back to our quiz questions. There you go, tenant reps. Well, come on, they represent the tenants. And this could be for a variety of property types. And let me let you guys know, some of us specialize in some really cool stuff. We've got tenant reps who do churches only. I'm only gonna, help churches find buildings. We've got leasing agents. Those people are just gonna help maybe possibly the owners lease up their buildings. They could be on salary. They might not necessarily get a percentage of everything. Can you imagine, Bradley, if you were the leasing agent for the Chase Bank building downtown in Houston or some big skyscraper in Dallas? You're not getting a percentage of all those tenants. There's like 50 something floors, 60 floors in there. So you're on salary, not necessarily. If you are going to be directly employed by these people, you may not necessarily need a license to work for them if you're employed directly by them. But be sure you're aware if you're collecting rent, you're going to need that license just in case you start mixing these things together. And brokers and salespersons, well, of course, we can represent anybody. Don't forget, dual agency is illegal, but you can rep buyers, sellers, landlords, tenants, doesn't matter. You rep everybody. And listen, the quiz question asks you, who do you rep? Everybody. There's your answer. Literally, there's the quiz answer right there. Everybody. All right. Managers, we all know that nobody wants to do this but me. So we're going to move on. Nobody wants to manage property. Let me just say this.
Don't count me out. Don't count me out.
Thank you, Miss Allen. I appreciate you. You are going to become very proficient at understanding the guts of a building if you manage to get into this field. It is a great place to be. Take the class if you want to know more and then make the call from there. Facilities management, daily management of property like buildings and grounds. You may be in charge of maybe one aspect, maybe you're in charge of everything. But let me just tell you, these two get blended together. Property management, facilities management. I tend to hear the word facilities when it comes to bigger properties. Is anybody familiar with Reliance Stadium here in Houston? Anybody familiar with it? I joined the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo as a member of one of the committees. Let me turn my phone off, excuse me. As a member of one of the committees, it was the recycling team, because it was the committee that had 100% access to every facility on that campus. And I wanted to see how large facilities were operated. and I got to crawl that thing in places regular folks never get to see. So when you're running facilities, there's a little bit more involved than just I'm ordering toilet tissue, fixing air conditioning. We're talking massive buildings where you're dealing with a lot more than just the daily workings of the building. You are running the actual retractable roof. What do you know about that? You know what I mean? You're working with the contractors who do that work. So it's a different level and it requires a lot more specialization. But team management is always key when we're looking at facilities and property. I also have to tell you this too. You guys have to get accustomed to everything that can go wrong if you're going to deal with property management. And that means injury to people. Just FYI, if you don't have the constitution to deal with injury, personal injury, as in people get hurt. I'm gonna say, anybody got kids in the room? Troy, are your kids around you?
They are in the living room back in school.
Okay, good. All right. I'm going to say it, and I'm going to say it as gently as I can. You go look this up so that you understand what I'm saying. But if you do understand, you can put it in chat very gently. At Sharpstown Mall, one of the things I was responsible for as a property manager was, of course, managing liability for the owner. Not necessarily just the public, but for the owner. I had to make sure things were running like they should. But at Sharpstown Mall, a property built in 1961, I get there 40 years later, in 2000, everything there is old and outdated. And one of the things that was outdated was the escalator systems. There were about 3 of them, only 2 were working, no, 3 of them. All 3 worked, but they had glitches, they had problems. They didn't come with the emergency stopping mechanisms that the newer escalator systems come with. And when escalators are abused by children who play on them, and I'm telling you now, that's my code of don't let kids play on escalators. When kids play on them, they get hurt. I've seen children lose digits. You understand what I mean when I say losing digits, okay? And I've seen people degloved. Does anybody know what degloving is? Okay. You don't know what degloving is, you go look that up and Google that yourself and be nowhere near food when you do it, okay? You have to be prepared to deal with that when you are managing property. The injury happens, people get hurt all the time. Sharpstown Mall's history includes a gentleman, and I wasn't there when this happened, it's part of its history, got crushed in the compactor. You ready for that? Property management is no joke. Again, I'm working at Sharpstown, a couple shootings a year. Some of those bullets landed. You understand what I'm saying? It happens. And so you've got to be a different kind of person if you really are going to manage property, certain types of property in certain areas of town. Let me just say that. But when you're dealing with machinery and equipment, and we'll talk about it in section 2, things happen. You got to be ready for that. So again, you got to have a certain constitution. Anybody looking up degloving? Again, don't be around your kids when you do that, and be prepared for what you're going to see. Just say that. It's pretty harsh stuff. All right, we've got our appraisers here. I think I skipped over consultants. Let me back up. Here we go. We've got our consultants, and we talked about that briefly, so I'm not going to linger here. But, you can be a consultant with a certain specialty. There's a thing that you do, and it might be systems management. It might be that you specialize in, for example, at Sharpstown, one of the things that we had massive issues with was plumbing. Do you all know that underground at that property, we discovered that some of the plumbing was not PVC or CPVC, it was unreinforced concrete. Do you know what unreinforced concrete does in the soil underground after 40 plus years? It turns into nothing. We couldn't figure out what was going on with the plumbing until we realized there was a backup underground in the parking lot. We had to pump that stuff out from under the parking lot and into another line just to get it into the sewer system. Craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life. But it might be that your job as a consultant to help people manage older properties with unique issues. Lots of crazy stuff. You might just be the consultant that only deals with retrofits. I don't know. Maybe you consult on better ways to keep the books. Are we doing triple nets? Are we doing gross ups? Do you know the difference between the two? Are we going to be using base years? Or are we doing expense stops? You don't know that accounting? It's not your wheelhouse. Lots of stuff. Let me see. Thick skin. Yes, ma'am. Who was that? Joshua. Thick skin. Yes, Lord. It was tough, Joshua, not gonna lie. But when you're a consultant, it's a real specialized thing. Just know that, my friends. And can I also tell you too, if you're gonna be a PM or even work for an investor, property management in particular is a 24-hour-a-day job. It does get kind of crazy. We have a hurricane and they want you at their property checking it out. Here we go. Appraisers estimate the value of the property. They're using sales comparisons, replacement costs, income, and you definitely need to know what you're looking at. Residential valuations and commercial ones do not compare because we're looking at income generation as well. So there's a few other things that come up. Appraisers, they've got a lot more to look at than just the age of the house and the neighbors next door. Might not even be a comparable neighbor. Inspectors, go ahead.
On the appraisers for commercials, if you're selling a property, since comps aren't really like they are in residential, is it wise to have it appraised before you list it for sale?
If your client wants to, absolutely, because you may not find comps and you may need to prove the value of what you're trying to sell if you're not getting what you want for it, you know, in terms of offers.
Okay.
It may be required. And then also, we'll talk about it much later, but then we've got ESAs, we've got environmental site assessments we got to look at. Are there, issues with properties that need to be cleaned up before we can sell it? That's going to knock a price up or down. So there's a lot of other stuff that comes into play. And I do realize that we are kind of breezing through this, which is how your text was designed. I do want you all to know this is a certification, not a designation. And so this is designed to expose you to information. If you want more, you are going to have to dig a little deeper. Inspectors and engineers, my favorite folks. These people are the people who got me where I am. There's not too much you're going to tell me about a building that is going to shock me. I can get on the roof with you. I can get into the truss of an escalator system. I can get into an elevator. I can shut down any mall from the front to the back. I can flip off lights, turn off and on sprinklers, lock up systems. I know how to run buildings, but that's thanks to my engineers and inspectors. If you ever find one, befriend this person or these persons. They're going to teach you how to look at an asset and what is going on with it. That'll help you talk to your investor clients with a lot more ease. But when you run into inspectors and engineers, befriend them. They're the ones that can tell you about defects in a property and issues before they ever hit. I'm looking at itis all over the room. Oh, look at y'all. I see it. I see the sleepies hitting. We're going to end up taking a break a little sooner than later just to get y'all over that. Okay, here we go. Continuing on. And by the way, we're going to hit math in a little bit, but I'm not going to beat you over the head with it, just to let you know. Everyone understands what attorneys and CPAs are for, and let me encourage you. Hire an attorney. Have your client get one. If they don't understand something, by all means, encourage them to get the attorney. By law, you're not allowed to discourage them from getting one. Did you all know the TREC rules actually say that you can't discourage your client from getting one? You can't. TREC rules go on to say that they recommend you have your clients select their own. Go to the Texas Bar Association, use the drop-down menu, find a lawyer. That's what the feature is called. Send them over there. Just in case you find a lawyer that's not worth their salt, you don't want to get dragged into negligent referral. So it's best to have them find their own. But CPAs, be cautious of recommendations. Does anyone have a nightmare CPA story? I'm just asking, because I do. Has anybody got a nightmare CPA? I see, look at Lou's face. Lou, you had a nightmare? Okay, let me just tell you something. Guys, there's a lot of room
I have a CPA that specializes in international clients, so that's who I send my clients. Otherwise, the locals get your own.
Amen. Guys, there's a lot of room for a lot of fraud when it's an area you don't understand. You know what I'm saying? And what you don't want to do is be a party to it. I don't think any of this is written down anywhere. So let me just say this. And for those of you who know this business, and I think Mark might be one of those people, Mr. Neff up here, put it in writing. If you find yourself having these conversations on the phone, during property tours, at luncheons and functions, and it wasn't put in writing anywhere, find a way back to a computer and say, hey, it was great to see you. And just to recap, this is what we said, because you're going to be surprised in commercial. We can be much more litigious than folks are in residential. These are business owners you all are working with. So get it
CYA.
writing. Right? Say it again.
CYA.
I wish I could say what that means. You can though, if you'd like.
Cover
your ass.
I can't cuss on camera, but you guys can. So absolutely cover your butt. And you really do need to put things in writing because you'd just be surprised at what changes and how quick you'll find yourself in a court of law with no proof that you said or did something. If it is not in writing, it didn't happen 101. Thank you, Vicky.
Mish, that's something good for these new agents who are on here, because I think now that I'm in year 6, that's the one thing that I can tell you consistency wise. Make sure you go back to an email, because I ended up in court and it was from 3 years ago.
Did you?
I'm still licensed.
A friend. Okay, listen, I'm gonna 2-second sidebar. I'm gonna put some things in the chat for you all. If your clients should start asking you for things like referrals to contractors, for example. I don't like referring, Gabrielle, I think I hit a nerve here. I am not a fan of making any referrals, period. That's just not me. So when it comes to contractors of any type, in the chat, thebluebook.com. So if they're looking for anybody to build it out, tear it down, restore it, whatever, I'm out of that. If you have a tenant who is just leasing space, but needs a refrigeration specialist because they're about to open a restaurant and they need to check the giant built-in refrigerators. I don't know about that. So send them to thebluebook.com. We used to actually have a Blue Pages. That was our contractor, a telephone book. They don't print it anymore, but there you go. Thebluebook.com, not Blue Book. That's your Kelly Blue Book for your car. The other thing that you might be able to do, and I'm gonna put this in the chat for you, is look up something called ripoffreport.com. Has anybody ever had the pleasure of looking up that website? Anybody used it before?
Yes.
Tell me about your experience on the Ripoff Report.
You'll see people's names on there that come with high referrals.
Wait, you said you see people's names on there that do what?
They come with high referrals.
Yeah.
I mean, people that tell you that you need to hire somebody, you look them up and they're on the do not call list. It's all opinions.
He's being facetious, but I will say this. The ripoffreport.com is kind of like the salacious version of a Google review. You know, what do the Google reviews say? Well, if you want the vulgar version, sometimes you'll find it under ripoffreport.com. What I find is folks get very emotional on that website, but they will tell you about their experiences with contractors. The contractors do get to defend themselves. You can see both sides of a story, but check it, because someone that came after one of the gentlemen who I represented was on that ripoff report. Turns out he'd been running through the state of Texas, filing claims like this all over the place. It actually helped us out. So you might want to send them there. And then check out, who remembers this one? Look in the chat. Who remembers the good old BBB? Better Business Bureau is still alive and kicking, my friends. They still grade companies. People still launch complaints on the Better Business Bureau. I like to just stay out of that mix, just as a point of reference. Someone asks me, what do you think about so-and-so? I'm like, I don't. I just don't. I send you to the websites and you take a look and make a call on your own. So that's just from me to you because it's not anywhere in your text.
Miss,
Yes.
this reminded me of, I did some property management in a retail center in West Houston. And then after about 2 months, I tore up the agreement and said, no, I'm not going to do it. Why? Your brother-in-law is your AC guy, and he's not doing work to code. He's not getting permits. He's not doing any number of things. I'm not an expert, but I've been around enough to know what part should be here and there. And he doesn't return my calls. He shows up late, and he's rude to the tenants. And I'm catching it all. And your brother-in-law, well, he's family. What are we going to do here? So I'm gone. Bye. And that was it.
Amen. I don't blame you, not one little blipping bit for that. You find that the contractors are family. It's a tough call, and it really is. So I appreciate that, Ed. Thank you. Shelly, who is Shelly Jr. up there? Who is that, a girl or a boy?
It's a boy. His name's Wade.
Dude, Wade.
Say hi, buddy.
Look at big old Wade's as big as shit. Look at that.
Yeah, he is.
It is as big as yours. Okay.
He said, I need some attention. Who's that woman talking?
That's all right. Hey, Wade. All right, let me get y'all back to class. Okay, here we go. Thank you, Ed, for that feedback. Definitely needed. And of course, you guys know there are financial advisors and business managers who might be there helping your investors run their specific operations. But can we get over to this just a little bit? Who is the commercial practitioner? We got some stereotypes we've got to address out here in the world. This is what a lot of people think of us in the business. They think we're mean. They think we demean folks. Some of them think we're higher and mighty than anyone else. Some of them think we think other folks are smaller than us. We're the big dude in residential, smaller people. We like to crush folks. And worse yet, they think we're horrible at returning phone calls. We don't like to talk to folks. We don't return emails. And I'm just curious, but who's experienced this? Has anyone experienced poor communication? Hey, Bradley down there. Has anyone experienced poor communication from commercial practitioners out there?
Oh, yeah.
What's it been like? First of 2 seconds, Bradley, girl or boy, and what's the name? Yes, what?
Talking to me?
Bradley, Kaylee.
This is Kitten.
Oh,
The girl.
Bradley.
Well, hello, Kitten. Okay, thank you. I just saw a puppy, wanted to say hi, y'all. We speak to children and animals when we see them in the classroom. All right, but who again has had negative experiences with my colleagues in commercial? Tell me what that was like for you.
All the time. And the 9 agents that I oversee, this is the most frequent complaint, is not getting responses on properties. Now, I oversee business brokers. We're all real estate licensees, and we find retail spaces to put the businesses into, and they have their signs on the windows. So we're not cold calling, we're calling the vacant space that's available. And just getting response happen in a time that's useful for what we're trying to do.
It can be challenging. I agree with you on that. Has anybody else experienced this brick wall? Because I'm looking in the chat and I see that Gilbert, you've experienced it. Nikki Smith. Yeah, April, anybody want to share what you've been through for those who are new that don't know this is coming?
Well, I'm still new, but it's a constant headache for me. And I'm someone who likes to communicate a lot. And when I reach out to someone, and especially with this gentleman I'm working with for my brokerage, we're trying to find some places over in around the TCU area for him to do a restaurant. And like half these agents I've tried to contact, I can't get any responses. And I mean, I'm trying not to be that guy, but I'm also like calling and texting, like, hey, can I get some sort of feedback or some sort of response? And it's such a headache for me since like I said, I love to communicate. So it's so annoying.
I love the way he said he's trying not to be that guy.
I'm the same way. And I sent an LOI the Saturday before Christmas with an expiration date of December the 28th and contacted both agents. There's 2 listing agents on the listing. Multiple times through text, through email, through phone, no response the whole time. And the day after the expiration, I tried calling again and they're like, oh, you were on our list to call next. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, you know, and I'm seeing Martha, it's frustrating. Let me ask anyone before I share my solution. Does anyone have a solution? Is there anything that you've done to successfully overcome the communications hurdle?
I can respond to that.
Please do, Ed, yes.
I find out who the owner of the property is. Could be somebody in Wisconsin and call them, hey, I'm trying to reach so-and-so, so-and-so and all that. And sometimes that works. But when they do call me, they're angry and says, well, if you want to tell me to go to hell, fine, just do it and get it over with. Don't drag it out for a month. But you can find the actual owner or the group that owns it. There's always a group that's part of an investment portfolio. And sometimes that will work, not always.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any other solutions for this? Because I'm seeing lots of comments here. I see call the broker. Go ahead.
Mish, I think, you know, one thing I've found is sometimes we're afraid to tell people when we don't have experience being a newer agent. And I think people appreciate it. And some might not want to work with you, but the ones who do seem to really love being a part of your journey and helping you and understanding. So just being honest with them and saying, you know, I may not know this, but I'm going to work my hardest and point you to the experts that do. And that way we can form a team together. So I think some of them are more willing than we, I guess, don't assume. All you just have to just be honest with them and say what your experience is. And hey, I want to learn and I want you to be a part of that. And I think they're excited about that too sometimes.
And it's a sometimes thing, to your credit. You're either going to find the agent that doesn't mind helping you, or you're going to find the person who is absolutely frustrated because they have to help you through.
Okay.
I've seen them both. And you'll have to figure out who it is you're working with. So let me give you a couple of things that might help you out. Number one, when you've tried and you've called and you've emailed and you've done your part, I have found that calling the front desk of whatever company you're trying to reach and asking the person that answers the phone, listen, I've been trying to get in touch with so-and-so, and I just need to know now, is it still listed? Do you care? Are you actually trying to move this property? If you're not, feelings won't be hurt, just need to know where to put my energy. Can you help me get an answer? And most people that I do this with at a front desk, oh my God, I'm so sorry, let me get you to someone. And I find, Ed, that instead of the broker I've been trying to call or the agent I've been trying to call, I get sent up to a vice president instead, because I've expressed sheer frustration. I'm trying to spend millions here. Do you mind? I mean, do you mind? If you have an LOI or a contract, all it takes is 2 seconds to tell me you got one. And so I'm very abrupt, not mean, but direct and abrupt and asking, is this sucker still for sale or not? The other thing, like Ed said, sometimes you got to go direct to the source. And then you will also need to maybe nose around and see if you've got a friend who's got a friend in the company, go pull a coattail. I've shown up at offices before, and Ed, now I like your style, but sometimes it's a last resort because it does kind of damage that relationship with the person you've got to work with for the next several months. But if you've got to get in there, you've got to get in there. One other tiny tips. Thank you, Brad, kicking in doors and demanding that. Let me give you a little tip on leaving voicemail messages. And y'all tell me if you agree or disagree. In residential, when we speak, we're very nice. As a matter of fact, if I pulled myself back from this tone, it'll be more like this. Hi, this is Michigan. Just calling to see if your listing was available for me to tour. Just, give me a call back at 832-768. And I'm doing that very melodious, hey, kind of thing. I don't do that in commercial. I put my very abrupt, heavier, rougher voice on, As you can tell, I just modulated for you just in the last 2 seconds. And this is what my voicemails tend to sound like. Some of you have heard me do this. I'm going to turn off my camera, and this is how I will leave a voicemail. I will say, hi, this is Mishika Guillory. Can you give me a call back at 832-768-1711? Thank you. Click. Now, there was no melodiousness, rudeness, but I also didn't tell you why I called, which yields me a return call, because most people will say, Ed, you're gonna love it. They said, ma'am, I don't know who you are, but you sounded like somebody. I need to call back, because it was direct and it was stern and it wasn't so melodious. And it worked. My boss taught me that years ago. Leaving the voicemails that were a little too warm and fuzzy, it didn't yield me a lot of good results. So I wanted to put that out there. They're not bad folks, but we are notorious for not returning the phone calls. Any thoughts? Go, Mark.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. What I usually do when I'm and we operate in Dallas and Houston in commercial. What I usually do is, if I can't get the agent that is listing the property, I call one of the associates and I set up a meeting with one of his counterparts, or he or she, and they come out. And what happens is, I usually get a real quick reception, because they see an opportunity to get some commission because that person didn't answer the phone, and we get a really good reception. So in Houston, they're quick to respond. I think there's more properties in Houston, so they're real. In Dallas, I call them the 9 to 5 commercial realtors. They work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Don't work. I'm just being honest with you, but we have more success in Houston than we do in Dallas.
Wow. Good advice, though. I like it. So you pit people against one another.
No, the other thing as well is your demeanor, both on the phone as well as emails or text, makes a world of difference. If they know that you're talking about business and that you mean business, they'll treat you as such.
Amen. And sometimes our kinder, softer, gentler approach in residential doesn't give that impression to some people. So I'm not saying don't be your kind, nice, reasonable self, but if you discover that's not working for you, you might try a different approach. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate that. And Lisa, let me tell you, sometimes I might not tell you what company I'm with. I might only say that this is broker Mishika Guillory, and I'll leave it there, but I almost never tell you what I'm after. You'll never know who I am or what I want. And that's what gets the person to return my call, because they don't know, am I repping someone in a portfolio they already own? They have no idea who I am. And it usually will get me a return call.
I had my LoopNet representative one time contact him and got my response.
Say it again, Benjamin. I missed it.
Oh, sorry. I've actually used my LoopNet contact person to call them from LoopNet and just be like, hey, we've gotten some information that nobody's answering for this listing. We just want to make sure the information's correct. And they called me back.
I like it. Oh, that's working. Okay, that's wonderful. Well, you guys, you've definitely got the clue here. It's part of what our business is about, unfortunately, but there are ways to overcome it. And don't forget, you all are sharing your information. If you need help, you got colleagues all over the place who are looking like they want to help you out. Let's take a look at this real quick. I need you all to do me a small favor. Grab your cell phones, because we're going to do this a couple times today. Your cell phones. And I need you to get ready to send a text message. And I promise you, you are not signing up for anything. But I need you to pull up a blank text message, and you're going to send it to a 5-digit number instead of a 10-digit phone number. That 5-digit number you're going to send this message to is 22333. Now, before you send the message, in the body of the message, I need you to type in this phrase. That's my name, Mishika Gill 560, no spaces. And just in case you're like me, I've got a cataract. That's GUILL 560. So again, you're going to pull up a text message, type in 22333. That's the number you're sending it to. When you hit send, should get a confirmation text from a company called Poll Everywhere. Do not click anything once you get the return email or text. Don't click anything. Just, you should get a text message back from Poll Everywhere. This is how we're going to do exam review, by the way. We're going to use your cell phone to do exam review, but we're going to practice really quickly right here. Hopefully this technology works for me today. Did everybody get your return message from Poll Everywhere? All right, so what you're going to do is read this question and type in the answer by just typing in an A, B, C, D, or et cetera, et cetera. If anybody types an FN, tell us who you are. Tell us how your business is structured. What are you? Just type in the letter and hit send. Okay, so the poll is locked out because it does have a limited amount of answers in there. But for those of you who did answer, it looks like in the room, the vast majority is still a sole proprietorship. A good third of you are LLCs, and some of you have already given yourself a C or an S Corp designation. Bless you for not saying mish, none of your business. Thank you. So before we dive into that, I'm going to go over one quick slide and then we've got to have a conversation. For those of you who are still here, sole proprietorships, first of all, that is a quiz question and or answer. But I would like to tell you now, as soon as you are ready and as soon as you can, it is highly recommended you move your business away from this structure. You have zero protection if something goes wrong as a result of something you do in business. Now, this is when I take my hands off this steering wheel and I ask the classroom to share with us. But before we do that, I want to make sure that everybody understands before we go there that it's time for this. Bam! Break! Thought we were going to keep going, didn't you? Aha! It's time for a break. I'll see y'all back here in about maybe 10, 12 minutes after the hour. About 10, 12 minutes after the hour. Thought I forgot.
For those of you who structured yourselves as an LLC, as an S Corp or a C Corp, if you're willing to share some advice and the do's and don'ts, that'd be great.
We're gonna stop that. We're not in session. We on candy break.
Because I'm fixing to do that. I just want to make sure I'm not repeating somebody else's mistakes when I could have asked prior.
No. That's part of our class. Don't forget, we're co-teaching up in here, but not during a break. People are gone and they're going to need that. So enjoy your break. We'll be right back and everybody's going to share what they know about that part of our businesses. I got you, my friend.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Patrick, I do see your comment. If I don't call on you, remind me to open up the mic since you've got something to share. And this is going to be a massive group discussion. So guys, don't worry. We're going to all have a time, just really good advice to jump in and share with everyone.
All right, no worries.
Awesome stuff. Great. Miriam, are you still there? Miriam, are you still on? Yes, I'm here. Okay, let me get you here, my friend. Let me pull you down to that. If you want to, this is usually something I show at the very end of class, but if you want to catch me, there's about a million ways to do it. Thank you so much. No, no worries. Take a picture of it and keep it, and there you go. Yeah, I appreciate it. Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Mish,
Sound like a robot, Miriam.
Hey, Mish,
And then
where
I
did you
heard,
get
I
your,
heard my name.
Mish, can you go back to that slide just to get your information, please?
Sure.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
You're very welcome. Huh.
Hey, Mish.
Yes,
I have a question for you. Can you hear me all right?
you're a little heavy, but I can make you out so far. What you got?
Okay, yeah, my reception's a little poor, but so I have a listing, and my client, when she previously got the commercial business or the property appraised, she said they only used residential comps because there were no commercial comps to comp that business out. Yeah. And so I'm wondering what, do appraised have, I guess, access to all the commercial comps sold as well?
That just depends
Because
on
we're
what
now,
they paid for access for, but that's an interesting, they intend to use it as commercial or residential?
oh, definitely as a business for commercial. That's a daycare. Um, and that's why it appraised really low when she bought it and had to make up the difference. And I'm just kind of wondering why that might have been the case. And if there's
And I was
another,
going to ask you, that's an interesting thing.
I wasn't around when that transaction occurred, but and so now we're getting in the process of the new buyers getting an appraisal, and they've asked us for a previous one, and we're like, well, that wouldn't matter. Why don't you get your own?
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's weird. I'd have to actually go call an appraiser and ask, why would you do that? If highest and best use of the property was not residential, then was that the consideration for valuing the thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's an odd zoning. It's zoned rural residential. So
Yeah.
maybe that played a part in it, but it's
That
still for
might have
commercial.
dictated why, yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Okay. And then do you know is there a commercial MLS for the Austin area as well that I can become a member of, or?
Well, I believe there's not a commercial MLS per se, but your ABOR, I'm pretty sure, has like a commercial gateway, that commercial section of
we
the
do
board.
have commercial in there, but it's just limited, very limited.
There's someone who knows. I
Oh,
can't see who that was, but because with a city as big as Austin, you all should have a commercial side to your business.
Mhm.
Like in Houston, we do have the commercial side to our business, and it's getting more active every day, but it's not nearly as active as the residential side. I'll have to give you that.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. But don't forget RPR. Use that as a resource as well.
Okay.
Troy, you
I have
okay
a
there?
I'm perfect. I told you I'm good. I'm gonna be okay. You too good for me to go to sleep. See?
Just checking. I heard someone's name come up, the voice. Who was that?
That was me.
Yes.
Herman.
Hey, Herman.
I wanted to, hi, thank you, by the way. I wanted to ask, because Alex was asking a question about teams, and I wanted to kind of add a little bit to it, because I know you're inquiring about it. The issue that he's specifically talking about is a commercial deal that let's say it's I'm buying the property under my entity, and we're both on the same team. He's my team leader. And so I'm buying it, and then he's going to be the agent of record on it. But because I'm the buyer and he's the agent for me, is it possible to get credit for both?
And that's what, thank you, because I was like, there's more to what it is you want to know than just thank you. I'm going to end up asking you guys though, to send me an email with that in it, so I can specifically get an answer to your question, because I'd love to send that up the ladder and get it for you. But thank you. I knew there was a little background in there.
Right, exactly. That's it. So like the idea is that if I want to buy this property in my entity's name, and then I have to be the agent of record as well in order to get the credit to get, go towards my like designation for this, so that I can have that designation. I would ultimately like to use it, but I think as a team, there's certain logistical reasons why we want him to be the agent of record. I'm the buyer and he's the agent, even though we're both working on it. And essentially I'm drawing up the contracts and I'm doing the offer and I'm doing all that. I'd love to receive credit if possible.
Gotcha. And forgive me, I love you. If you could just email it, I'll shoot that straight to the boss lady.
Okay, so I'll get your email and I'll send it to you. Thank you.
And do you want me to flash it up on the screen now?
Please.
Yeah, let me put that back up. Bam.
Huh, okay, yeah, so we're getting.
Got it, thank you.
You are very well, and thank you for helping me out. You'd be amazed at how much housekeeping we have to do once classes are over sometimes too. So thank you. Wrong snack. That ain't the right one. Hold on. Get to the right snack. There we go. I'm currently taking love offerings in the form of artisanal chocolates that look just like the ones on screen. If you just feel so moved, feel free to send boxes of chocolates. We're coming back from break in about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, my friends. Be sure to wrap up your calls in about 2-3 minutes. Got another minute or so left on break, guys. Wrap up your calls and emails. We're almost back to it.
Mish, are there some training opportunities, or would it just be a matter of reaching out to other commercial agents, experienced commercial agents on market analysis, and how would that differ from residential?
And what are you looking for when you say training opportunities? What?
Well, just, I know there might be classes. I know in the residential side of it, there's always classes on doing a proper CMA. But I was just wondering the differences between residential and commercial that we would have to want to master or need training for or to seek out.
We'll definitely work with people, at least in this class that you are meeting, that do certain things that specialize. But Texas Realtors does offer a variety of classes. Let me just turn this off real quick. They do offer a variety of classes, but you'll find the classes are either highly generalized, where you get a commercial overview, or extremely specific, like mine tend to be very targeted towards leasing or property management or writing letters of intent. But there are commercial classes available all the time. My encouragement for you is to stay on the Texas Realtors website, because you don't have to necessarily be a member of the Arlington board to take a class through Arlington that might not be offered in your neck of the woods. So stay online, keep looking, because different folks do offer different classes. And by the way, no pound, just the letters, just the numbers, just 22333. No pound, no star.
Hey, Mish, I have a question for you, personal.
It's a personal question. I don't know. I might not want to give you an answer.
When you were working for the mall, were you an actual employee of the mall, or were you still under the entrepreneurial status as a real estate agent?
Oh, honey, I was bossed around by my boss. I was working for Jones Lang LaSalle, then CB Richard Ellis, and Transwestern. Those are the three companies that ran through it. But because the ownership did things that were questionable with regard to how they kept the books, these corporations did not want to be a part of or have that built for their portfolios, because they didn't want to do things that owner was asking them to do. Commingling of funds, lots of things going on that they didn't care for. So that's why it kept changing hands. But no, I was an employee. And I don't know about y'all, but I can't go back to work ever again. I'm unemployable. Once you work for yourself, you cannot go back, right? Look at Gabrielle's face. I am totally unemployable. I just, no good. Punching. Hey, did y'all ever work for someone, show up 2 minutes late for work, and actually have your boss eyeball you and tell you you're 2 minutes late and want to just
Slap them around?
I can't say it because I'm employed right now, but I'm under contract.
And slap them around.
Right. I cannot go back to work, but I was employed by major corporations when I did a lot of this work. Okay, so let me see, Marilyn, I still did not get into the poll group. So you're going to, now listen, let me say this. Some people's cell phones are set up so that you cannot use 5-digit numbers to send text messages to, because sometimes cell phone companies recognize that 5-digit numbers might actually sign you up to give away money. And so you may have a built-in stop feature on your phone that won't let you. I used to have that on my phone, and T-Mobile had to help me take it off.
She's in now. She was private messaging me. She's in.
She got in? Great. Okay, because like I used to go to like Bed Bath & Beyond. Oh yeah, just type in this. And my phone would not let me get that coupon in my cell phone until I changed my cell phone. So now iPad, Michelle, that's you, right? Is that you, Michelle? You okay? So
iPad. Yeah, it's because I have 2 devices going.
That's okay. So now we are back at this point where, let me put the slide back. This is a massive group discussion. Now we're going to do our best not to be all up on top of each other conversationally, but I am not an LLC. I'm not a limited partnership. I am an S corporation. So even I cannot speak to everything we're about to see. So if anybody has a thought or an opinion, I need to make it plain now that everything we discuss from here on out is simply about the thoughts and opinions of other people. You all will need to make your own decisions after you've done your own research about what works best for you. So that's the disclaimer. Mish did not tell you to go do something. You're going to make your own decision based on what we share. So with all that said, let's get to sharing. That way we can all get off this sole proprietorship train. Let me at least ask this quick question. Can we all agree that sole proprietorship might not be your best way to go? I mean, thumbs up if you agree with that much. So I'm a freshman in the room. Sole proprietorship is not necessarily the place you want to stay. So let me get our slide back up to where we were. That was sole proprietorship. And that means you run it by yourself. Your tax liability, whoa, through the roof, my friend. Your tax bill is going to be nasty if you're reporting absolutely everything that you earn as a sole proprietor. You're going to run your taxes a totally different way, and then you're going to get sick of it, and you're going to start exploring some choices. Who in the room is an LLC? Anyone in the room an LLC? Sherry Jordan, I saw your hand go up first. Why did you choose it? Let me just take off the thing here. Why'd you choose it?
Tax benefits. I can write off a whole lot more in my taxes than I can if I was a sole proprietor. And it protects me personally a lot better.
Absolutely. So you've opted for the LLC. Is there anything different about the LLC that you need to be mindful of? Do you have to have board meetings, designate officers? Are there some things you need to do?
You need to decide if you're member managed or separate manager. Better to be separate manager. Otherwise it shows that, hey, you're the owner and you're the person to sue.
Yeah, I made my husband the president. I didn't want to be the president. I didn't want to be an officer, but they made me be one. So.
Also,
I
if you
got
happen
some,
to be a
I got some
veteran,
stuff on this.
Yeah, you got
can
the
also
franchise
build around
tag.
that too. So there may be different rules that apply.
Okay, let me, I think I saw Joshua and Troy both trying to speak. Go for it, Joshua. Say it again.
I was just going to say, I don't know if anyone else in here is a veteran, but if you are, there are certain rules that are required for you to set up your LLC. For example, I have 100% ownership. I can't have anybody else be an owner. I have to be the owner. There's ways to get like other members in there, but it's very specific. So it really depends on, I guess, I don't say just your background, but like if you're a veteran, if you're not, like I would look at the Secretary of State website. It really breaks down a lot of that. Plus a good CPA can also break that down for you as well and get you set up.
Amen.
Mitch, I got some stuff on that.
Yes, please go ahead. I can't tell who was speaking, but please continue.
So this is, I will say this is somewhat an area of expertise for mine. So there's 3 different things I would say about this. The first one is most agents are set up as sole proprietors because they don't know any better. Now, in the state of Texas, you can be an LLC, but in order to comply with TREC rules, that LLC has to be registered as a brokerage. So your broker you can accomplish that by one of 2 ways. Your broker can own 10% of your LLC, or you can just carry your own E&O insurance for your LLC, but your broker can't pay your sole proprietor commissions to your LLC and run it through that way. So if you want to run your commissions through an LLC, you have to register that LLC as a brokerage. If you have an LLC now and your broker's paying you commissions directly to that, and it's not a brokerage, it's a TREC violation is what it is. So make sure you're setting that up. The second thing is if you guys can set it up as an LLC, you get the benefits of taking a salary and only paying self-employment tax on a salary versus your entire check. So part of it's distributions and part of it's the salary, and you only pay self-employment tax on the salary. So if you made $100,000 a year, it's about $9,000 worth of actual tax savings that you'll get by doing it that way. You just got to set it up right. So.
And Patrick, I'm going to ask you to put this in the atmosphere. A lot of agents, salespersons believe they cannot be an LLC because they're not yet brokers. Can you kind of share a little bit about how that's actually not the case? You can be a salesperson that is an LLC.
Yeah, so you don't even need a license to own a real estate brokerage. Any Joe Schmo off the street can start an LLC and start a real estate brokerage. The only thing you need is a sponsoring broker.
There you go.
So depending on what kind of control you want, there are brokers throughout our state, for better or worse, who will sponsor your LLC for you for $100 a month and kind of let you go do your thing. But your broker that you have now, if you kind of want the best of both worlds, a solid broker plus that, you can kind of set some stuff up with that. The other thing I would say is if you're going to set up an LLC for your commissions to run through, you need to make sure your independent contractor agreement makes it clear that your broker is not hiring you, they're hiring your LLC, and you just work for that LLC as an employee, because you're no longer the independent contractor, your LLC is. And so there's some language variations there you need to put in your ICA with your actual broker to kind of make everything nice and buttoned up and tight and pretty. So
now for anybody that Patrick might have left behind because the lunchtime post-lunch-itis is kicking in, what he really said was get a CPA. And that's what, right?
And a CPA and a good business attorney.
Okay. I actually, now let me just say this. I'm not one for making a lot of recommendations, but I don't mind putting this on the table. Gabrielle, I think you might know where I'm going with this one. The Texas Realtors Leadership Program. Is anyone in the room a graduate? Whoop, whoop, because I am. Hey.
I am.
All right.
I am.
I'm 2017 rocks. Just say that now. All right.
They ain't got no trophies. Hold on. Let me go get it real quick.
Get off the screen. Listen, the Texas Realtors Leadership Program is an amazing place to go, program to get into when you are ready to next level your business. It is the thing that got me out of sole proprietorship and into an S corporation. That worked out best for me. And we came across, I see Peggy, 2015 is okay, my friend, I'll give it to you. But let me just say this. My tax bill used to be pretty sick. It was upwards of 20 grand a year, like an idiot, right? And then they brought in this woman. And this woman's name was Christina Dharam Singh. Gabrielle is back there preaching. I think she pulled up a tambourine. You just can't see it. But Christina Dharam Singh used to work for the IRS. And it was her job to be an auditor. And Miss Christina is no joke. That woman, if she audited you, accepted zero. She was like the Judge Judy of auditors. There was nothing you could say that would sway her from potentially either finding you beyond your means or just sending you to the pokey. And she's very honest about telling you this. But she no longer works for the IRS. Guess what? Christina's a realtor now. And she is also a CPA, and many of her clients are us, and she's wonderful. She is a master at keeping us compliant, letting us know what the latest laws are, and she was brought to us through Texas Realtors Leadership Program. She's so good, in fact, that when we were told that this particular meeting of the TRLP program, we're going to have a tax specialist come in the room. You all know what we did. Everybody blurted out some kind of expletive like, oh, crap. But crap wasn't a word we used. Who the heck wants to have a tax meeting? I got to be here all day and listen to somebody ramble about taxes. The woman spoke for 2.5 hours and we begged her to stay in the room. That's how good she was. This lady is phenomenal. Okay, I know, right? Now, thank you. Thank you, Gabrielle. Put her information in there. Now, let me say something to you now. You better get it while you can. We're about to bless you. Roll back into tax season. She does not take everybody. She doesn't. She can't. She deals with millionaires, ball players. She also specializes in law enforcement, ironically. She has a lot of cops, constables, troopers. So she's very good with business owners and people who have special considerations, but I love her. I see other recommendations. I see people coming up with, is it Katie Lomness? Shelly, thank you for the recommendation. So if you believe in someone, feel free to recommend if you'd like, but I will say that while I'm not a recommender, Christina came to me through TRLP, and this woman got my bill down from about 20 grand. The first year I worked with her, we S-corped, and she got me to the S-corp designation in December and effectively got me retroactive for the whole year. My tax bill went from about 20 grand down to $1,629 and some change. It was the first time since I've been a realtor that I paid my tax bill in one lump sum. Boom, I was done. I am an adult woman, but I did shed the single tear. I was so happy I couldn't see straight. She's that good. This year, my second year with her, my tax bill, drum roll me, $529. I couldn't see straight. What? And by next year, I should be getting the big refund. You just don't understand. I'm so sick of my tax bills. I was doing it wrong, y'all. So what I'm saying is call Patrick. Patrick, are you open to calls, my friend? Do you?
Wow.
I'm working through all these messages that
I
got.
already stalked him on HAR, so I got you on the HAR app. I'm right here. He's on my phone.
Love it. Love it.
I'm
Patrick,
working
you
through it.
opened up a whole can of worms. Yes.
Something that she did for me.
Yes,
was
please tell.
Coming into this in 2015, I was not that agent, and I did not know. And when she had to do that evaluation, she just closed the door and said, "You ready to cry?" And I was like, "Wait, hold on. Why must we cry?" And I did cry. And it was both eyes. And it was like, you need to do the following thing. So if you don't have someone, I am telling you to prepare yourself when you call her. It's no games. None.
No joke.
I have a question.
Yes.
You can tell me if I got the correct information, but I spoke with the CPA last month. I'm a new agent, so I wanted to go ahead and go with the S Corp like I was suggested by other agents. And she said I needed to wait until I made $40,000 first, or else I'd be paying more taxes than I would as a S Corp making less than $40,000 than I would as just being a sole prop.
That could be very well true. And my salary is at a certain place where the S corporation definitely works for me. Well, let me just say this. And again, you got to talk to different people. Call Patrick, speak to the lady that you're talking to or gentleman that you're talking to, but you have to shop people like you shop a car. You don't find a CPA, ask 6 questions and call it a day. You have the right to shop around and you need to. So one size does not fit all in terms of how we're going to structure a company. I will tell you this, in the simplest way, someone says there isn't enough cost savings if you make under 50K for what it costs to file the S Corp. And for me, filing the S Corp only cost me a couple $100. My CPA and my attorney love me, but let me just say this. You need to ask questions. Ask all the questions you possibly can, get what you need. If it doesn't make sense, you find someone else until this makes sense. Don't sit there and nod because they're speaking and you don't want to appear to not know. It's the worst thing you can do for yourself right now, besides stay a sole prop. Does anyone else have any thoughts? I see in Corpus, John Hurt, his name just went up. I see people still looking for Patrick's information. Patrick, you may want to pop that in the chat intermittently every few moments or so.
I'm just gonna do it to everybody real quick.
Okay.
So, but Mitch, I will say that I didn't see the comment yet, but if you don't make 40 is probably right around where the number is. You don't make 40, the cost of maintaining the LLC, doing a tax return, registering it with TREC, keeping E&O, even baseline E&O insurance, all those costs will add up. So if you're not making at least 50, you're probably spending more money. And if you're making 50, you're only saving about $1,000 or so, doing that. So
by the pro, absolutely. And again, I've been in real estate for a long time. I sold propped it by mistake for a long time. And I got to this level where my tax bill was tremendous, but the savings were even bigger when I decided to S Corp. So again, it's your job to ask around. Y'all call Patrick back. Patrick, it's your job to charge these people, honey, this good money that you have earned for this knowledge that you have acquired. Let everybody understand something as well. When people call you up and they want to discount your rate, you remind them you're paying me for the years of experience I have, not just the 10 minutes you on the phone with me, okay? If you're good at what you do, you've earned your money and don't ever be afraid to ask for it. Without that said, Patrick, don't be handing out discounts just because they was in here with you, my friend. You get your money. But I'm being very facetious. You guys, Again, consult with professionals. And I want to draw a couple of things up on the screen. Let me just throw these up for you. And just to reiterate, I want to piggyback off of Gabrielle. A lot of what we had to do, I had to do to get myself straightened out. Christina told me what to do and how to do it, and I did get myself out of some proverbial hot water. There is information in your book. It is very general information about S corporations, about the C corporation, and some of the requirements of it, but it does not go into just the little bit Patrick just shared, some of the costs associated with these and why it may or may not work for you. There's information right here on this little slide that's not in your book, general information about the differences between C and S Corp designations. Now, Patrick, does any of this move you? Like to share? And bless you, Carlos.
Thank you. Sorry.
Does any of did you say move me?
Yeah, does anything move you? Do you feel moved to share? He's glancing, he's looking.
It's kind of all stuff we kind of talked about.
Okay.
I can't think of a good reason why any individual agent or small real estate brokerage would designate themselves as a C Corp. So that's just a waste of money, but everybody's situation is different.
Awesome stuff. And by the way, let me get somebody out of the waiting room. Looks like we got a student in there. Thank you. And let me also share this. For me, and Patrick, definitely chime in. Let me put this in the chat for you guys. Has anyone ever heard of this company before? They're starting to advertise in the Texas market on television. It's called Paychex. Is anyone using Paychex? I do. Is anyone, Patrick, before I go into a Paychex spiel, is there anything that you know about it or the thoughts that you have? I'd like to sit back when an expert's in the room.
Not enough to share knowledgeably about it, so I'll let you do that.
No worries. And again, this is not a direct endorsement. The only reason I know about it is because it came to me through Texas Realtors. Otherwise, I don't like to make endorsements. But Paychex is a company that's kind of like ADT. Has anyone ever gotten their payroll through ADT when you worked for big companies before? And Vicki, let me get you now, my friend. I see you. Has anyone ever? Yeah, ADT usually works for companies that are massive. And they have hundreds and hundreds of employees. And Vicki, you are now co-hosted. Well, when you are
to say, I used Paychex when I used to own a childcare.
Yes, tell
And,
before I go into it. Share, yes.
I have nothing negative to say about them. Of course, they did all my payroll. I worked for H&R Block for 15 years, so I knew some of my tax purposes. Well, I'm just saying, I'm not a CPA, but I knew what I needed to do. But I let them do what I didn't know how to do.
Exactly. And I'll add this, and I'll keep it very general and non-specific, but through Ms. Dharam Singh, her recommendation was this: Mishika, you now need to be an employee of your company. And so I've always had my personal account and my business account. But what I do now is those two accounts are connected to Paychex. All my commissions go to the business account. And then I have Paychex cut me a paycheck minus all of the applicable taxes. Your Medicaid and your, what's that, who is FICA and why is he in my business? That kind of thing. All of those things come out of my paycheck. And so it keeps me from having to fool around with quarterly taxes. And that's how my tax bill got dropped, because I've been paying myself a payroll check all that time. It was part of that process. And when, well, ADT or ADP or whoever, one of them ADs, my friend, may not work with companies that are one employee, but Paychex does. Paychex also allowed me to set up a 401k for myself. I get to contribute in 3 different ways because I'm the only one. I did enjoy it. The fees are manageable for me at the level of business I'm at, and it keeps me from commingling money. Again, taxes are getting paid as I'm getting paid. So there's no, again, quarterly estimated payment needed. And by the time tax season comes, I've paid up most of my tax. It's just wonderful. And they can generate up to 129 different reports. So if my bookkeeper needs something, or if Christina needs something, I have but to call my account rep and say, can you create? And they can. Wonderful.
I use Gusto, which is similar
Okay.
to Paychex, for the same reason. I'm an S corp. And the thing about it that I like is it did create all of the documents that I need to give to my tax accountant for everything. Also, it allowed me to, if I needed to take a draw, like if I needed to take actual money and not take out any taxes, I could do that. I'd pay that tax on that later, but it didn't make me take a paycheck every time. There's draws, as well as there's reimbursement options. So if you want to reimburse yourself for something that you paid for your business, all of that stuff is done, and it makes it easy for the tax accountant to kind of see how you've been moving money between your business account and yourself as an employee. What I loved about it the most is it made buying a house for myself extremely easy. It also made buying a car extremely easy, because now I have check stubs, which is the biggest thing as a sole proprietor. You don't have check stubs. You have, a tax return for almost everything you do. And we like to write things off on our taxes. So when you have check stubs and you're running them yourself, whenever you need a check stub or two to show amount of income, you can pay yourself and take taxes out, and it looks just like the next person. And again, it also works for you to be able to do your tax as well. So it covers you on the front end, back end, and it makes your life appear to be the same as another W-2 employee, because guess what you get? W-2s.
Amen.
Right?
And does Gusto cut the 1099s for you?
Gusto does all of the things.
So does
and it was
Paychex.
like $45 a month. It wasn't really expensive. Plugged right into my QuickBooks as well. So all of the integrations and different things like that were available to where everything talked to everything. My accountant has a login. I have a login. But if I need to, play with my money as the owner of this business and the employee, I can play with my money as I see fit.
Fantastic. And go ahead and type Gusto in the chat for me so everybody can catch that. And then Michelle.
Also, paying my assistants really easy too. So when you have small employees and things like that, you're able to pay them and it shows up on your records as well.
All right. And Michelle, come on. What were you saying?
Oh, I was just asking what that was. If she could put it in the chat,
she just put it in there. Fantastic. And then we're going to move over to, anybody else have any other companies like Gusto and Paychex? Because I see Jackie saying this information is blowing my mind. I'm glad it's helpful.
I got one that's for agents who want to have a retirement account. I will throw out Sense Financial out of California. They give you can set up a 401k with checkbook control, and you can invest in anything with that. It's your bank account. You have the checkbook. The only thing you can invest in, I think, are like collectibles and things that are perishable. But you can invest in crypto, stock market. You can do hard money loans out of it. You do just about anything. But it's a good way for those who are self-employed that need retirement accounts.
I love it. Oh, I absolutely love it. Who else was contributing? Someone else had something to say.
I don't know if you can see me. Shelly.
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to say, so I don't pay myself every 2 weeks. And I think that's a common misconception of an S Corp, that you're an employee and you pay yourself every 2 weeks. So for me, it's a paper exercise behind the scenes. I assign myself a salary, I pay the taxes, but I still pay myself the commissions. So if you have a good CPA, it's really a paper exercise behind the scenes. You don't have to pay yourself every 2 weeks and use an extra app and do all those things. So
I only give myself one paycheck a month. I'm real mean with myself. I try to keep my money.
Put yourself on that budget.
Yes, I am on it, but I look like I make nothing. I do. I look like I'm a broke woman.
You don't look like you make nothing.
I do. Well, that's
what
my
it looks
like on paper.
I leave money in my business account so that my business is actually a profitable business.
But as an individual, I look like I get nothing. But anyone else that has a contribution to this? Because what you're seeing in the chat is a lot of new agents are saying thank you because no one told them. Anybody else have a cautionary tale to share?
Can I just ask Patrick again what he said about insurance for having an LLC? Like you have to pay for it yourself regardless, or what was that on the
So Trek says that, so Trek does not mandate brokerages to have E&O. You can have a brokerage with no E&O insurance if you want to, but if your broker doesn't own at least 10% or more of your LLC, you have to have E&O in that case. So it's kind of a paperwork exercise and a little bit of a trust exercise, because I have seen and heard of situations where the broker is officially given 10% ownership in an LLC and things go sideways and they basically, try to screw each other, and it becomes this big legal exercise of them trying to, cash in on future income. So the cleanest way to do it is just to pay for a basic E&O policy. You're not going to do anything out of it. So you can just get the cheapest one that's $1 million is what you need according to Trek. But if you don't want to pay for the E&O, you can just give your broker 10% ownership in your LLC and, make it like a non-payment.
Ownership, and you can pay for your own E&O and still have it.
Look
Right.
at everyone's. My goodness, you guys are amazing. Never be without E&O. Amen to that. Never use it if you can help it. Give me 2 seconds, guys. I want to double check something with regard to where we are in the curriculum. We're skipping over some stuff because you all are actually verbalizing it. So there's no need to really read certain things. This one slide I did want you to see, it's on page 32, just talks about types of ownership. And this one mentioned private equity funds. And this doesn't come up quite a bit in the class at all, but in case anyone was wondering, it just talks about closed-ended versus open-ended funds, talking about publicly traded companies versus companies that are not. That one is not a very big point that we stick on in this class, but let me just make sure there's nothing else that really needs to be covered in depth, because we spent some good time talking about setting up your businesses. And I think that's more valuable than necessarily going through a book sometimes. Let me just double check a couple things. Okay, real estate investment trusts. Now, some of us have seen the REIT, that's your REIT, and I've worked for some of those. And that is a company that manages a portfolio of high valued investment grade assets for its shareholders. I've worked for REIT. It's a difficult place to be because of the non-disclosure element involved in working for them. You're not allowed to tell a blessed thing about what you know about costs associated with purchase or with sale, etc. Everything is very tight-lipped when you work for or with a real estate investment trust. You'll definitely be guided by the ownership group when you work with them. And then let me move you on to the next one. Whoops. Types of REITs. We've got equity REITs. These are operated by several income generating properties, or they operate rather lots of properties. And you've got mortgage REITs. And this is an interesting concept that we don't have a lot of time to cover. And I wish we did. They own mortgage-backed securities, MBSs, or commercial mortgage-backed securities. I actually teach this concept in a GRI class. If anybody's ever going to take GRI with me this year and we hit finances, we'll talk a little bit about tranches and mortgage-backed securities. It's an interesting phenomenon, but we do not hang up on it in this class. Later, Section 3, we're going to go back to this, the Delaware Statutory Trust, and this is going to be as a manner of protecting yourself from certain taxes. We'll just leave it very general. We're going to just leave it there. But you will see a lot of companies that say they are a Delaware statutory trust. You'll see this DST designation behind the company's name. I will say this, the book is not very clear on the fact that this is considered a syndicated fractional ownership interest. I saw that phrase and wondered, what in the world does syndicated fractional ownership mean? Got my attention, thought I'd look it up. So this is what I came across. Please note the camera in the corner because this isn't necessarily in your book. If you want the information, take a picture. So according to the book, a bunch of unconnected individuals, not necessarily family and friends, form private syndicates to buy, for example, maybe a vacation property. This gives the owners some privileges. like the number of days when they can use a certain property. Now, this is supposed to mitigate the risk of ownership of high value tangible assets. It may be for strictly monetary reasons, but typically there is some amount of personal access involved. Many of you are looking at this going, that looks like a timeshare, doesn't it? Kind of looks a little like a timeshare. And a big motivator of why some people would get into syndicated fractional ownership is the ability to share the costs of ownership along with sharing some usage. That's why they want to do this. But isn't that a timeshare? And that's not a yes or no answer. A non-deeded timeshare agreement lets you lease the right to stay at a property. You don't own it, you lease the right to stay at it. So that fractional syndicated ownership is not necessarily a timeshare situation. It could be if there's ownership. And so before everybody starts running off because you learned a new vocabulary word, be clear on what we're talking about. Is it non-deeded timeshare? Do I actually own a part of the timeshare? You got to get real clear when you start dipping into this, because what I know for sure is one thing. I keep running into folks who are not happy with timeshares. Doesn't mean people don't like them. Someone loves them, but I run into a lot of people who are not satisfied with these things. And I think it's because of a lack of understanding of what they are. So just wanted to put that in the atmosphere for you. Now let us move forward to wealth generation. We're about to slowly march into some numbers. Let me promise you, I am not going to beat you over the head with a baseball bat with numbers. It is the end of the day. You all are losing brain cells by the second. It's time to go. Everybody wants to quit. So we're not going to make this difficult. We're just going to hit a couple of concepts and it's time for you all to take a break. So let me get you here very quickly. Leverage is where we're going to start. When we come back, we're going to just talk about borrowing money to buy buildings and what that kind of stuff looks like for you. So we're at 2:48. I need to see you back here at the top of the hour. If anybody finds a pretzel and a cheese ball, Postmate me something. Send me a snack. Appreciate you. See y'all back here at the top of the hour. That's 3 o'clock. We're going to move into these numbers slowly.
Hey, Mish, I just wanted to thank you for your attentiveness. You're quick about looking at our questions. I've been in a lot of these Zoom meetings where you ask something and it's never. So I thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Thank you. I try. You guys are really, really on it. I'm like, the chat is crazy over here.
Hey, Mish, this is Sandy.
Yes.
I had to tell you. So I started out in class number 2, right?
Yes.
And one of the things you brought to us and what I learned is about an offering memorandum. So I was in the middle of, I've had a building, my first building for 2.2 million listed. And just a week ago, I got a request from an interested party asking for an offering memorandum. And had it not been for you, I would not have known what he was talking about.
Yay. So, and it's not in the book.
Right.
What is he talking about?
What is it? What is that?
Aha, you have to pay extra. What?
You gotta take class number 2 to find out.
No, you're not getting away with that easily.
If we've got time, I'll show you. If we've got, because we're doing really well. We're on schedule. We're behind about maybe 3 or 4 slides, but that's nothing I can't overcome. But if we got a little time, I'll show you towards the end.
Yeah, because
I'm working on it, Mish, and I didn't realize how detailed and how this is becoming quite the project. But it's some things in there that I didn't even think I needed to get together or to have available, but consolidating all of this data and additional market information in one place. And CoStar, my CoStar rep did help me. She sent me some data for the zip code we're in, so that helped. And I also pulled a report from RPR that also helped, that I'm also consolidating. But it's, oh my gosh, this is just days of sitting here putting all of this, trying to compile all of this information. But once it's done, it's going to be so pretty. Oh, it's going to be so pretty.
You got to share. You got to let me see.
Okay, I'll let you see
show
it.
you.
So I'm proud of it. It's going to be great.
Oh, I love hearing that. Michelle, I got you. We'll show it to you one way or the other.
Okay. Well, I sit on some boards. So, you know, when we look at our MOMs, our memorandums, that's a big deal in our bylaws. So is that similar to that? Does it consist of that, or it's a whole separate topic?
The offer memorandum is this document that you would put together for your seller client that has a lot of the information that's needed for the due diligence period. And if you get this stuff gathered up now, when prospective buyers show up, they're going to ask you, do you have an OM? Because all they want is, can I see the survey now? Can I see the P&Ls for this particular, you know, the business or whatever it is? Can I see how much your expenses are? Can you give me all this stuff now? Give me your tax information. Let me have it now so I can make a judgment before I even put in an offer. And it is a time saver. The example I put up in class that Sandy saw was for a gas station. She's right. I went to RPR, pulled up all kinds of stuff, showed people what the traffic count was at the intersection where the gas station was. It's how many cars are driving by, potential customers, you know what I mean? And you want to gather all this stuff up now to prove that what you're trying to sell is worth the purchase. And besides, like she said, you're going to need it anyway when you sell it. So you might as well start gathering it up. And it makes you not look like you don't know what you're doing when someone says, hey, Michelle, can I get a copy of that OM?
Well, that could totally set you apart and be the reason why they do business with you. That's huge. That would be huge.
So yes, ma'am, if I've got the time, and I might, I'll show it to you. And I mean, we've got 3 more days together after this one. So just keep it in your mind. If we don't have time, I'll do it on the next day, but we'll get you there.
I'll bring the wine and send you a bottle. How about that?
Chocolate.
Chocolate?
Chocolate is real. Send the chocolate. Yes.
Okay. No, the wine can be real. I can have it shipped to you in Texas.
Very cool. Very cool. But I'll put it in the chat for you. It's the offer memorandum. Let me just, so that you'll know what it is.
All right.
So glad that helped her out. Bam, that's what she's saying, offer memorandum.
There we go. Yeah, okay. I spelled it correctly. Cool.
Yeah.
Exciting.
It's always really good to hear. I like it. Jency, you can get traffic counts from the county, TxDOT. You can get that stuff off of RPR. That really just depends on what's available in your market. But even sometimes cities will tell you at their major intersections what traffic counts are. But you do have to do a little digging to find it. But sometimes that makes the difference. It's a good traffic count.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it's interesting because all these buyers, and whether it's residential or commercial, I imagine they just look to you as a source of wealth for resources and information.
That's what we're going to cover in section 2, not class 2, but section 2.
Okay.
Actually, one of the things I've asked Texas realtors to consider, which is why I keep saying the book's not finished, is to change the language a little bit. When the book says you have to know, you need to know, it have you think that you have to specialize in everything.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you speak to what you know. And if you don't know, then you go get help or direct your client elsewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to minimize the search because I'm too old to be looking around. If I was 20, it might, you know, just to try to figure out what's going to be the best use of my time and leverage my time better.
Awesome stuff. And look at Justin. I love that comment too. Thank you, Justin. Yeah, you know, like I tell people, I don't know everything about everything. There's just no way. Y'all see all this stuff coming out? I can't know everything about everything.
So, Mish, is there a class that we can take on the offer memorandum?
No, I actually have always thrown in the offer memorandum in a class wherever I can find the time. I've thrown it into my commercial leasing contracts class. I've thrown it into the property management class. I will toss it into a GRI class if I can get it in. A lot of times what I'll ask people to do is if you've got 5 minutes when class is over, I'll leave the broadcast up. We'll go through it together. It only takes about 5 or 6 minutes. And if you're interested, I'll email it to you. So yeah, there's no class for it. Maybe I should, but the information is invaluable. You're going to need it if you represent sellers.
That'd be a great class.
I might have to do that if you guys come on and, put the money in your mouth.
Put the money where our mouth is. Yeah, if it's gonna make us more money, I'll be more than happy to.
Because I got taxes I got to pay. It ain't but $500, but I'm just saying.
Hey, no, totally
No.
understand.
Yes. Yes, ma'am, Terry.
Hi, I'm getting into the commercial. I've been in residential over 20 years, but my son is starting to get into, he's rehabbing multifamily properties. Him and a couple of other guys, I don't know what type they've set up, but is there anything, and as a mom, I guess I'm just real protective, so I'm trying to learn as much as I can. And other than this class, what do you suggest that maybe I take to learn more information where I can kind of, get up all in his business, make sure he's doing the right thing?
Nice.
Now, wait a minute. Tell me what kinds of properties that they're trying to.
He's looking at multifamily. He said he's looking for like 15 to 20 doors. That's the term that he's using.
He's right. Yes.
Okay. And
Okay.
And they want to, I know that they've watched some and they weren't a part of where they would purchase it, rehab it, and change the structure of how they were collecting rent. And then they've turned around in 2 years and doubled their money. And they've seen this happen several times. And it's like, okay. And it's just really the properties that they're interested in, and they are finding, it's just bad management. And
That's perfect. Now, to answer your immediate question, I don't know of any other classes, but I will tell you that in section 3 of this class, and it might be day 2 of section 3 or day 1, we start talking about pro formas. And this is a spreadsheet, a set of data where you put some information together about how a property could perform based on what you want to do and how it's functioning now. And it really is about buying properties that are really poorly managed, because it leaves lots of room to improve what's going on and ultimately raise rents. So Terry Lynn, we're going to get there in section 3. And again, whenever you get your book, go straight to the section that talks about pro formas, because your sons might already be doing this. And evaluate tool, which I think I have short videos that I'll be showing you in section 2. The videos will let you see that there's a plug and play feature to that tool that will let you see what your outcome could be financially for investing in certain properties.
Okay.
Stuff out there that you can do that this will help you participate in what they're doing.
Yes.
Bigger Pockets is the best podcast to ever listen to for that, for value.
What is it?
Bigger Pockets.
Bigger
Pockets.
Yeah.
Bigger Pockets. It's a podcast and it's online, and they have tons of people who do value add multifamily flips. It's pretty much flipping multifamily housing.
Yeah, he watches that.
Yeah, so that's if you want to kind of listen into things like that, that's a huge resource for how it's being done in the syndication world. It's probably what your son's doing.
Yeah.
Bish, what was the name of that document you said?
The pro forma.
How do you spell that?
For memorandum.
Okay, for offer memorandum.
Was it the OM, the offer memorandum?
No, you said something else after that.
It's probably this. And by the way,
yeah, that's it.
There you go. And then for adding on Oracle, don't forget to put that in the chat. I think it's somebody else did for you. Bigger Pockets. There you go. There's also a guy named Peter Harris. He has a YouTube channel, but he's a co-author to the Dummies books when it comes to investing. You know those yellow books, Cooking Enchiladas for Dummies, commercial property management, whatever, for dummies. He has a YouTube channel. Great stuff. He's got a very easy style, and I really like him. Anybody else watch Peter? Yeah.
I watch Peter all the time. I love Peter.
Yeah. So
He
there's
really
a lot of
breaks
stuff.
down with a little whiteboard. He's really, really good.
Yeah, he's a nice, easygoing guy. I don't want to demean who he is, but to me, he's kind of like the Mr. Rogers of commercial instruction, investment instruction. He's just easy. You know what I mean? And I like him. He's just comforting when you're about to hit a concept that otherwise would scare you to death. So I like Peter. Hey, we're back in session. I'm gonna give y'all another minute and we got to hit it. And I need to open up my window. So before I put my middle parts in the screen, let me block my window for just a second, y'all. There we go. Put some light back on my face. And let's get back to here. We were on equity, I believe. All right, we're about to start running again, my friends. But again, I want to thank you all for co-teaching and participating, because it looks like a lot of the freshmen to the business in the room are appreciating the knowledge. So thank you guys for participating in that. Let's go. Leverage. Woo! Let's borrow someone else's money to buy it. And I don't know the investor that doesn't like leverage, because they're putting in less cash to get out a better return. And that's, if you do it right, that's what leverage does for you. It's a strategy for borrowing money to increase your return on your investment, if you do it right. Now, there are ways to goof this up, but in an ideal world, we're borrowing money so that we're putting in less cash so that we get a greater return for the cash that we did put in. That's just the simplest way I can phrase it. So let's keep going. We're going to hit numbers soon, but I promise you, I'm not going to kill you with it. All right. So use of leverage can give you the opportunity to buy assets on a greater scale. So it'll give you capital. If you don't have enough capital, but you can get some lending here to acquire property, the use of leverage can help you with that shortfall. There might be some tax benefits associated with using leverage. And leverage can free up some of your capital so that you can go buy other stuff. And there's some benefits to using it. And there is some disadvantage to using it. You can increase investment risks if the return on the property is lower than your obligation to repay this money back. High leverage ratios used to acquire expensive assets can exacerbate a problem if this asset fails to meet cash flow expectations that you had for that property. Terry Lynn, looks like your sons are doing something right. It looks like they're estimating their cash flow expectations at reasonable levels if they're doubling up their money. So it sounds like they're doing the right thing. We might need to have them come in and be guest speakers, you know?
Oh my gosh.
So now let me ask everyone in the room, how does everyone feel quarantining may have impacted everyone's ability to go get loans and whatnot? And where's our lender in the room? There was someone in the room who was a lender. Where'd he go? I'm looking for you. Where'd our lender go?
It was Alex.
Alex, where you at, my friend?
Hey, right here.
Okay, I'm looking for you. I'm going back to page 1. Let me get over there. Alex, now let me ask you this, because I don't know what sector you're really focused in and paying attention to, but have you seen all of this quarantining and shutting businesses down impacting investors' ability to acquire loans, et cetera? What have you seen?
I am seeing that a lot of lenders are requiring a little bit higher LTV value, or I guess lower LTV value. They're also looking at a little bit more liquidity in your assets. Debt service coverage, I think some places have even gone up to maybe 3 instead of like the typical 2.5 or 2.25.
Uh-oh, where's your mic?
Right here.
There you go.
Did I freeze out?
You left off at 2.5 and then I lost you after that.
Oh yeah. So debt service coverage is basically how much income the property is producing versus how much your mortgage payment's going to be, for lack of a better term. And so usually that was like 2.5 times is what a lot of lenders were looking for. I've seen a lot of lenders bump that up to maybe even 3.
Yeah, and and you tell me if you see, I'm going to make sure I let somebody in the room, excuse me. You tell me if you see this the way I see this, but right now what we're looking at as a result of quarantining, a lot of job loss because businesses were shut down, is I see a lot of moratorium and protections on evictions on the residential side. We're protecting a lot of people, but landlords who still have loans outstanding aren't getting their money to cover their debt service. And as a result, while the residents are being protected, I'm seeing business owners strung out there to just die. What are you seeing anything? Are you staying active in that community?
So I don't stay as active in the commercial section of business, just because I really enjoy residential real estate compared to the grunt work I used to do in commercial. But I will say that I do see a lot of commercial properties coming onto the market because of that, because there's a lot of investors who are just trying to get out and kind of recoup some of their cash flow. And so it's a great opportunity if you're cash rich to get in right now, because people are getting desperate.
Yeah. And then I see Austin, you said loan process more complicated. You want to speak to that briefly?
Yeah, we have a apartment complex under contract. The lender keeps asking for updated Ts and updated rent rolls, and they're just anticipating that with the people not paying their rents, that all of a sudden they're going to have like a significant increase in delinquencies. So that's really something there. The other thing is hotels and motels. Most of the lenders I've interviewed in the last month just said we're not even touching them right now at all.
This is definitely hitting us in this sector, so just be aware of it. And then I see that Lou, also more down payment. Lou, you want to share a little bit?
I represented the seller. There's a flex property, about 11,000 square foot with about 1.5 acres, $1.4 million, and his lender, the buyer's lender, required 50%, and we went back and forth. Finally closed it on December 31st.
Oh, good Lord.
Ms. Guillory, this is Carl.
Yes,
I got something to tell you. Right now, most lenders, I used to be a commercial banker also. Right now, most lenders are chasing one industry down, and they're chasing down C&I, commercial industry, doctors, lawyers, dentists, accounting firms. They're chasing them down. I have a deal that's in Houston right now that I'm doing that's $1.6 million. This guy is getting an SBA loan with 10% down, with a variable rate starting at 3.2%. Yes, yeah. And I mean, and they're taking, and basically they're refinancing a debt that he had with another bank, the line of credit, they're refinancing at another bank, and he basically rolled everything into one loan, and 3 different loans, and he rolled it into one loan, paying $25,000 a month, but it basically covers the debt service for everything. And these banks are chasing. Now, I understand with apartment complexes and hotels and things like that, but if you're on the C&I side, and especially in the great city of Houston, I'm just telling you right now, Houston is a gold mine. It's a gold mine. It's so much commercial property out there in Houston that you can pick up. Me and my business partner, we rode around in Houston last week, and we seen buildings that are 17, 18,000 square feet are going for $1.2 million. And that's unheard of. And as long as with an SBA loan, as long as the person is going to occupy 51%, they have great opportunities there.
What are you doing up in my city, Carl?
My license said that I can sell it all over the state.
That's all.
We're looking for you, Carl. When you come back, don't come down 45.
We're gonna talk anyway, Miss Allen. That's not a problem. We have already identified that we want to talk to you and give you an opportunity over here with us. But we'll talk about that on offline. I'll text you my number in a minute. But we want to take over the whole state. Me and my partner, you'll see Randy. He's the handsome guy. I'm the mouthpiece. But we want to take over the whole state.
That's a challenge because someone else said they were taking over when we started a few hours back. All right. And Oracle, I see you've got a great comment in here about lenders not letting new investors in. What do you see?
Yeah, because my group's pretty new. And so what we've been hearing and the lenders that we've been networking with is that they either want us to partner with someone who's seasoned, who has a track record in the industry, or they're wanting us to have a certain amount of cash for the deal. The debt service is extremely important. But, you know, we've had to kind of really talk a certain way and sound seasoned to even get the conversations that we've gotten.
All right.
So it's even the conversation up front has to be at a certain level to even get someone to listen to you. But in the end, what I've learned through sounding educated is that there is definitely not much room for new folks right now.
Yes.
And the other thing is that for the current multifamily owners, the new stimulus package just set up something where they can actually go and make claims for their tenants' rents. So the tenants don't have to get the money from the government. The multifamily owners and investors now can go and make claims to pay the rents that are due from the tenants who aren't paying rent. And
So many changes right now. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then Lexington also mentioned something. Thank you, Oracle and Carl and everyone contributing. Lexington, tell me what's on your mind with regard to repurposing commercial property.
Well, in trying to sell it, you know, with some of the, you know, industries like having troubles and stuff or not want to occupy buildings, they have to look at the zoning and see what all the uses are when trying to marketing or try to be creative when marketing the property, or see if the city will allow various uses that are in demand so that you can make the property more appealing. So you have to dress it up a little bit now.
Yes, and then something else I'm seeing on the horizon, slowly creeping in, and it's not new, it's just, it's coming up now, is the prop tech industry. And some of that's going to be changing how we use a building. Scanners that will check your temperature as you walk in the building. Sensors that are saying there are too many of you congregated in one area, please disperse and spread out. And this is because as a result of not having this virus under control, to get people back in the buildings feeling comfortable, there may be technology put in place to help people move around buildings. Only so many of you get on the elevator, and there's no hold that elevator. And quite frankly, don't get on there with me. Leave me by myself. I'll ride solo, my friend. I'm just saying. But there are going to be some property technologies brought in to make some people more comfortable using these buildings, because I got to get folks back in there operating and paying rent. So that's something else I see coming up. Somebody said, I'll just take the stairs. I hope you're going to appreciate the sense of humor. Client bakery, SBA loan they have 2 lines and lots of competition on second gen restaurant space. All right, now there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Anyone noticing MF values? Wait, sorry, I read that a certain way. Tanking with actual NOI going down from non-payments of rent. Patrick, did anybody want to address Patrick's question? I don't think there's an answer coming up, Patrick. Okay, Patrick, you didn't get an answer, not yet. That was funny, Patrick. I read that a certain way. By the way, guys,
I know exactly how you read it.
I want to let y'all know, I am listening to everyone, but I never mentioned to you that I'm watching 4 screens plus a telephone. Screen here, screen there, looking at you, and there's one on the ground here. And I have to watch 4 different screens to keep up with this whole class. So forgive me if I appear not to be listening to you. I am, just got to monitor a few things and I'm watching this clock. So let me get this back up on the presentation. I got a few turquoise highlights I need to show you. As soon as my internet cooperates. Am I frozen?
No.
No, you're fine.
Okay, it's not actually letting me for some reason.
You're frozen now.
You're frozen.
Now you're not there.
Amanda, you're the host.
Did she get disconnected?
I think she did.
She
Looks
should
like
pop
it.
back in here in a minute.
Anybody got any good jokes to share?
If she's not back in 5 minutes, she's disqualified from getting her check.
Say what?
Oh, she's not gonna do my friend that way. It's something wrong with the Metroplex. I said, y'all got it going on in the MTX.
Hey, now,
And
don't
at all,
forget-
but that down south 45 South is a mess.
Don't be hating.
Never ever that. Never ever that. But now I know I have people to come see when I come up 45 South.
Hey, but I heard you say Conroe, so you can't include yourself in Houston. I'm just saying.
First of all, where my house is located and where I do business is two different things.
I did put in the chat a Google spreadsheet for everybody to fill out if they want. And then I'll email at the end of class everybody's contact to your email.
Go on, Jackie. I see that's the one save y'all had for MTX. That's the one save. She saved y'all. Y'all better say thank you, Jackie.
Thank you, Jackie.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Betty.
All right, I'm back in the cut. Did y'all miss me just a little bit? Just a little,
Oh, there she is.
a little bit? Okay.
Oh, a lot of it.
A lot of
Locking-
it.
A lot of it.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, I saw myself locking up, so thanks for being patient. I can still see you guys in my other screen, so that lets me keep an eye on y'all. But let me get back to where we were supposed to be going, and that is right here. Share. There we go. And then the page I needed you all to see was this one: positive, negative, and neutral leverage. General terms created when leverage returns are greater than what we spent to borrow. So that's positive leverage. You got your negative leverage there. That's created when the cost of borrowing is better than the returns. And then neutral. Well, nothing happened. I borrowed some money, I made some money, and books don't look like anything happened. Just very general terms here for you. I should have shown you the arrows. I had all that ready to go and missed my cue. Anyway, so here we are. Building equity. Investors can build equity through property appreciation and debt repayment paid with the income that is generated from that property. So as the loan to value ratio decreases, that's a good thing. Property investors can either borrow some more money to acquire some additional properties or allow the debt to be paid down in full and, create a sizable cash flow investment vehicle for income and retirement. You never know. It depends on what you want to do with your money. Now, technically, we should have been at a break, but we're going to move on. Please pay attention to opportunity cost of capital. Well, I put a few more things back up on the screen, including y'all's chat window, because I got popped off of chat as well. Put that back up. Opportunity cost of capital. This is an important concept for us to understand. In general, investors are not going to go in unless, well, make some money, y'all. That's all it says. We've got an expected return, and if it costs more than I'm getting back, not doing it. There you go. So the opportunity cost of capital reflects the potential missed revenue opportunity when selecting a lower performing investment over a higher performing one. For example, this can be a stock, a bond, it can even be real estate. Now, you guys are going to start seeing typos in your book, some of which I'm aware of that are on a spreadsheet. And we're going to end up sharing that stuff with Texas Realtors. Hey, Jackie is being thanked for something. Do I need to be giving Jackie some love too? What am I missing?
Yes.
Jackie.
She's the only one from MTech who decided to do something. I'm just joking. No, she made a Google Doc for everybody to be able to fill in so we can put our info in.
Oh, amazing. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Well, then thank you, Jackie. I felt like I was missing out.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Okay. And we're going to determine which properties are better for us to invest in, but not until the third section, by putting a pro forma together and then looking at the differences between our expected performances of certain properties. Some assumptions are going to be in place though when we do that, and that's going to be that the properties we're looking at or the numbers we put in place are going to be across similar investment risks, that we're looking at things that are comparable with regard to investment risks. But we'll get there later. We're not going to overwhelm you with that stuff now. Let's look at some quick stuff. You got an investor, they're torn. I'm looking at some stuff and I don't know which way to go. I'm looking at a stock trading at, and there's a typo in your book that says 10, it's either comma 00 or 10,000. One of those typos is still in there. Should say $10. $10 a share or a bond that's going to yield 6%. So if the investor in our scenario expects the stock to increase 10% a year, the investor is supposed to be choosing the stock over the bond because its expected return is better by 4%. There's a 4% difference here. It's supposed to be doing better than our 6% on this bond. So the opportunity cost to the investor is the 4% loss in potential income by selecting a bond instead of the stock. We're going with the stock instead. It's a real generalized scenario. There's all kinds of other ways to look at things, and I'm sure some of our financial folks in the room may be wanting to pull out hair, but we're keeping things simple. I will share this with you. In our very first iteration of this class, we had some people say this: I feel like a white belt in a room full of black belts. And so what we don't want to do, if you're a black belt when it comes to numbers, is leave some of our white belts behind. So we're going to keep things easy and general. And if you need specific information, then we're going to call our professionals in the room for help. So here we go. But let's keep looking at this example. What if that's not how the stock performs, the stock that they were looking at? Let's assume at the end of the year, the stock was sold for $10.50 a share. So the investor's return was 50 cents a share, which is about a 5% return. That's a whole lot less than they thought. Well, as it turned out, the bond would have been a better choice. So what could have gone wrong? What could have happened? Well, okay, markets operate with uncertainty. We know that. If you all haven't been looking at the markets lately, who knows what it's going to do from day to day? There's volatility involved, meaning no one with absolute certainty, exactly, speculation, risk. You can't predict the future, and there's risk involved with what we're doing. Jeanette says COVID happened. There you go. There should be a bumper sticker called COVID happened. I'm telling you, let me get my mouse cooperating. So here we go. Please take a picture of this. You're gonna need it. Your return on investment is a real simple concept. It's a method that can be used to evaluate efficiency or how well an investment performed after its costs are looked at and assessed. It's a basic growth rate or simple rate of return that does not take into account inflation or time value of money. Time value of money is going to be an interesting concept to explain, but time value of money is a concept where the value of having $1 today is worth more than the dollar is going to be in the future as a result of inflation. Just going to say this very simply. If we were right now on January 13th or 14th, rather, 1960, we could have done much more with $1. Now, or then, excuse me, in 1960 than we can right now in 2021. Is that true or not true? 1960, I got $1. I can do all kinds of damage with $1. Today, hand me $1. You can't even bribe a kid anymore to do anything with $1. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? I'll give you $1 to do that, and the kid will roll his eyes so far back in his head, you think he's gone blind. You're just not getting the same thing for $1. And so we're going to hit time value of money later. Let's take a look at this here, though. We're still moving forward. You recently listed and resold a property that was owned by an investor that you worked for. And they've had this 5 years. They bought the property 5 years ago. Now, at the time, the investor wasn't sure whether the real estate was the best option or if they should have put the same amount of money in a bond yielding 6%. The investor 5 years ago had planned to hold the property for 5 years and sell it. So as a part of what you're supposed to do, if you said this is in your wheelhouse, you provide the client with the broker package that included some cash flow projections. Keep a tab on that phrase for the exam. It was going to include an operating analysis, and it talked about an 8% expected return for the property over the 5 years that the investor held on to that property, just based on the market data that you had available. Now, I don't want to overwhelm you with too much information. It's just a small synopsis of what's going on. But bear in mind, we've got an 8% expected return, right, for this property. So we're still looking at this same scenario, right? And this is written in your book. So if you need to go back and look at it in slow motion, you can. The 8% expected return was compared with the bond that's supposed to be getting us a 6% yield. And it was determined that the opportunity cost of the capital, if the investor chose the bond instead of the property, was 2%. So the investor said, let's buy the income property for $500,000. And that was 5 years ago. So they opted to do that. Now let me hold on for just 1 second. All right. So we're still looking at the same scenario. We're still in the same situation, just different slide. Now I want you to get used to something. You all are going to get a lot of information thrown at you. Some of you are readers, some of you are calculators. For those of you who are readers, I've done my best to color code what you're looking at. You'll see here that other costs associated with the property, in addition to the $500,000 price tag, are listed here, but they're color coded. So that when we look at this formula down here, you can line up these numbers. So does that help anybody at all? I just want you to know the colors aren't there just for a willy-nilly Mish loves rainbows. That's not what that's about. It's just to help your eyes follow the math. So $500,000 price tag, but then there were some other costs. 25 grand for closing costs. 100,000 was thrown into improvements of the property. Another $50,000 was spent in repairs over the 5 years we had it. So the whole cost to this investor over 5 years of having the thing, the whole cost, $675,000. He sold it for $700,000. So what's the investor's return on the investment? It's not
25,000.
5,000.
There you go. And those numbers, those colors, and we go back, see the orange, 700 grand, boom, we're bringing it over here now. Your book, God bless them, has a lot of information in it, and it's not color coded, and it gets a little tedious to follow. Let me admit that. We are speaking with Texas Realtors about potentially color coding the book. We're gonna have to get there. But for now, this is the best I can do. So when we're looking at this return on investment, here's a formula. Current value of the investment minus the cost of it. Well, the value here was $700,000, but our cost was $675,000. Remember, we listed out all those costs. And so what we end up with here is 25 grand. We're dividing that number per this formula by the cost of the investment. And we end up with a number that is 0.037. The formula says multiply that by 100. Does anybody remember from grade school why we multiply by 100? Just shout it out or throw it in the chat.
Percentage.
That's it. We're converting the whole number. Right. Y'all remember back in school, move the decimal point over 2 places to the right? Technically speaking, that meant you multiplied it by 100. So that's how we end up with 3.7% return on your investment. So the 3.7% return for that particular property is less than the 6% we would have gotten had we gone with the corporate bond. Remember, we started looking at a bond versus the property. The property was returning to us only a 3.7% return, which means we were better off doing the bond. It's a very simple formula, not too complicated. We're not trying to beat you over the head with it. You also don't need to memorize that. I'll let you know when we get there. But there you go. This is truly the end of the story? Absolutely not. There's always more. Let's keep going, just a little step at a time. So we got a little new information. We never looked at how much money the property generated. We got income now. So suppose that property generated $50,000 a year over the five-year holding period. So $50,000 a year for the 5-year total that we held it, $250,000, right? So now what is our return on investment? Let me put up some numbers here for you. Got a little new information. This number right here, our hot pink 250, we had to add that back in. Current value of the investment, that was the $700,000 minus what we spent. That's the, and let me just show you right here where I'm at. See this first long wordy thing inside of the parentheses? That's what's represented here. That is our current value minus our cost. But then we have to add back in, wait a minute, we made a little something, something on it. So we're putting the 25 grand back in, which meant this number is now 275. We're still going to divide it by the cost of the investment. That number didn't change. It is still 675. Suddenly, the return on the investment is a whopping 40.74%. That's because we considered how much money we made on the property, not just how much we spent on it. So you can't ever just go in, well, it's going to cost us this much to own it. Well, are we going to look at how much we're going to make off of it? Cross multiply, so much easier. Now listen, there's a lot to know, and there are calculators out there that will do this for you. Let me just let you off that hook. Do not get bogged down in feeling like, and let me let someone, Josh, back in the room. Do not get bogged down in feeling like I must master these formulas. I'm not going to linger on a slide long enough for you to truly master it. Many people who've taken this class, they go back and read the slides and they say, the book rather, and they say that was helpful. So if you need more, absolutely. And by the way, Austin, love what you're saying, because he says understanding the math, huge points with certain clients, and he's right. Just want you to catch the concepts, but the math, you will have calculators to help you, but your book is great at breaking this down. So I want you to forgive us at Texas Realtors for having to move you through it a slide a minute, but your book is there. You'll always have it as a great resource. So let's keep going. All right. Same example. Let's see. Okay, now this is something we learned the hard way from the first iteration of this class, and you guys get to be the lucky ducks who get it. I'm introducing something that's nowhere near in your book, and it's called a real estate stack. Let me fill in the whole page and be sure to get a picture of this, but I'm going to flash it up constantly. I'm going to throw all of this stuff at you before this is over, but when I taught this the first time, without this information, people were highly confused. So look at the stack and understand that verbally, this is what we're doing. We're going to talk about the potential gross income. This is your expectation of how much money this property is going to produce. That's your PGI. We're going to talk about it later. Then we're going to take a look right there. We're going to subtract from the potential money we could be making things like vacancy. You know, there's going to be some vacancy on the property. So yeah, I've got so many doors, right, Mom? Where'd Mom go? Terry Lynn, we got so many doors that could potentially me money, but not every door is going to have a tenant behind it. We've also got some money that we didn't make because we're in collections. Someone was there occupying but didn't pay rent, not vacant, occupied, unpaid. So that's money you expected that you didn't get. You don't necessarily need to follow these numbers. This is just part of the image if you want to see it. The EGI is the result, your effective gross income. That's the actual amount of money you're going to collect from your tenants after you account for vacancy and people who just don't pay. Now, you're going to subtract from that some operating expenses too, right? That comes into play. I got to run the building. So this is what you pay to own and operate this sucker. You just don't get this thing, Gabrielle, for free, and you don't have to do nothing. You got to pay to run this thing. And then that gets us something called our NOI. Our net operating income. It's what you have after all that dust settles down. Is everybody still with me? If you're losing it, stand up, shake it out. I see some eyeballs and eyelids getting heavy. I need balls, not lids. I need eyeballs, not eyelids. Come on, y'all. Now, after the dust settles and you've seen what you earned versus what you spent, as a school teacher friend of mine says, it concerns me because she teaches people's children. She says spunt. After the money you've spent. I know, right? Someone's child's learning that word. Anyway, the annual debt service is what you're going to pay if you borrowed money. So never mind what you earned after you've gotten your money, you paid the paid money to operate it, you still owe someone for the money you borrowed. We got to subtract that now, right? Now we've got cash flow before taxes were accounted for. This is your cash in hand after everybody else except the IRS got paid. And then take a look at this part of the formula. There is a plus and a minus there. Sometimes it's not about a tax cost. There might be some savings in there depending on what you did. My friends, what kinds of properties might afford you savings? You know, some of these things come with incentives, right?
Opportunity zones.
I love it. Whoever said that, was that Benjamin?
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Doing like USDA properties, there's all kinds of incentives that would save you some tax dollars. So taxes does not always mean expenses, just FYI. That's why the stack looks like that. Let me get you back to it. Bam, pow. And then when we look at either our tax expenses or savings, you end up with a number that says, cash flow after taxes. And I don't actually like that phrase, cash on cash return. So you're going to see me correct this phrasing as we move on later. But this is what you end up with after we're looking at all income and all expenses. Keep this somewhere in your world. This ought to help you get through all the numbers. I need a thumbs up or a thumbs down because I'd like to know, is this helpful to any of you?
Yes.
Helping you? Okay, because the first few classes never saw this. And for freshmen to the game, woo! Oh, they were ready to quit and look for refunds, okay? So snag a picture of it if you need it, but this will go up multiple times, okay? So let us move forward. Potential gross income. Now that you know what it is, let's talk about it briefly. This is the annual potential income for a property. Just like Terry Lynn said, her sons looked at the doors. How much money can I expect to get? So we start looking at a 100-unit apartment complex that we bought for $12 million. And let's just assume all 100 units are paying the exact amount just to make life easy. Everybody's paying $1,500 a month. So in a perfect world, 100% occupancy, how much money are we getting? 100 units, $1,500 a month, that's $150,000 a month, right? Multiply that by 12 months in a year. And if we are annualizing this number, that means our potential gross income is $1,800,000 a year. Everybody square? We good. Thumbs up. I'm allowed to move on. Look at Philip. Philip is like, yes, Miss, roll. Please go. I told you, some of you are going to just kill me for this. We've got other income to consider. You might be charging for parking, pet fees, storage lockers, laundry facilities, vending machines. You all get the point. There's some other income that is not necessarily rent. So let's just say that this 100 unit complex generates an additional 50 grand a year in other income. So, bam, we got to take that into account. But now we got to look at what we lost. Units that are not rented, that's our vacancy. And that is a reality we have to face with COVID, right, Ashna? We are not earning all the money we can, Adam. We're losing folks. So let's look at this 100 unit apartment building. Typically, in an average year, pre-COVID, 10 units are not rented, scattered throughout the property, but there's always about 10 that are not rented throughout the year. So this property is typically 90% occupied. The income loss from them 10 units is pretty simple. You take your $1,500, multiply that by the 10 units we didn't rent, multiply that by the 12 months so we can look at this annualized. So once a year, we just realize, hey, we didn't make $180,000. We lost $180,000, right? All right, moving on. Because Chad said so. Chad said, Mish, get down the line with this thing. We're now going to look at credit losses. This is income associated with people who are occupying units and failing to pay rent. This is a massive reality right now. Horrible. But in our example, let's assume that on average, we have a write-off of $18,000 a year in people who just aren't paying that rent. So let's keep marching forward. I have a reminder box right here, color-coded for you, of all those numbers I just put up on the screen. No need for y'all to memorize. I got it right there for you. Take a look. We've got our potential gross income. I've already done the formula with you. It was 1,800,000. We've got that other income off bikes and storage rentals at 50 grand. And then we got to remove from that vacancy the people who don't pay up, 180,000 plus 18,000. And let me just move this forward for you. That equals 198 grand that we're not getting. And bam, here's our final number. This is what we're looking at for the property. Our EGI, 1,652,000. Is everybody with me so far? I know the heads are getting heavy and the eyes are rolling back, but a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Is everybody all right?
Yes, Miss, would you go back to the credit screen,
Sure.
like 2 screens back?
Hold on.
Go forward.
Go forward. Right there.
Right there. Okay, I'm good. Thanks.
You are very welcome. Snap what you need. Snap.
I got it.
It's in your book. I just break it down just very slow, just for the people with the cheap seats in the back there.
I like the breakdown.
All right. I know some of y'all black belts are like, can I go get a cup of coffee? Phil Craddock and anybody else who does this for a living, if you're about to go nuts because we're slow strolling it, you go get yourself a cup of coffee, my friend. I ain't mad at you. All right. Now, look, we've also got operating expenses. I put that in that stack a moment ago because we do have to run the place. Okay. Now, we've got costs that are fixed, property taxes, insurance, trash removal. They're fixed because they're either on contract or we can see what they are. Security, I have a contract for that. I know what that cost is going to be. It doesn't change. Trash removal, I got a contract for that. I know what that is. It's not going to change. We've got things that are variable. Maintenance, that changes. I don't know what's breaking down today. Let me let Carmen back in the room. Seems like she got popped out there. I don't know what janitorial is going to be from month to month because paper and plastic numbers change based on occupancy. DeCarla, I know, my friend, I'm trying. I'm going to try my best to keep you entertained. And then the CAM costs, common area maintenance for certain things, stairwells, elevators, roof repair, just certain things. And there's this chart off to the side that's in your book where some of these things are listed out for you. And there's the number, $450,000 for your operating costs. Now, let me get you here. Capital expenditures. These are major improvements, major expenses associated with either replacing things like the roof, elevator upgrades. We are trying to extend the life of the building. I'm sorry, but you walking into a building looking like the Brady Bunch built it, it needs some upgrading. It's going to need new things. And those things usually cost a lot of money and they're considered capital expenditures. Now, old school folks like myself used to use a certain number. Anything over 50 grand was considered a capital expenditure. I have seen some owners, Jamila, say something that cost 30 grand was a capital expenditure. Do not fight with your investor about what it is and what it isn't. Okay, things have changed. So even I can't fuss with people. Well, no, that's not 50,000. It can't be a capital expenditure. Some owners think 50 grand is where that starts. Some will pull the number down, but can we comp rents on CPR? Listen at me. You want to know, can we comp rents? When you're saying comp, are you saying compute rents? What are you asking me? Kelia? Okay,
I'm just wondering, is there a way on RPR to comp rent rolls on in a similar way as we would run comps, you know, to look at the NOI?
I tried. I wish there was. We're in communications with the folks at RPR as well, because I do wish that there was a way to do that. But let me say this. When it comes to rent rolls, what you'll find your investor wanting are estoppel documents, and they don't necessarily want to trust the docs that come from the seller, even though they'll get them. But hit me up after class. I think I might be able to help you with that.
Okay, great.
Because that one's a tough one. That's tough. I've seen people not trust what the landlord gives them anyway.
Yeah.
I feel you on that one. Thank you. Let me put,
Thank you for selling the business.
yeah. It gets tough. It really does. Let me put this back up on the camera for you, because I want to watch my clock and keep you guys in line so we can stay in a timely fashion here. Now, this money for the capital expenditures, upgrading the elevators, replacing the roof, might be put in a reserve that's set aside because there's an expectation that we're going to have to do some things later. So HVAC, plumbing, major work, we might have to set that off to the side. And again, that NOI is going to be found after we subtract the operating costs from the effective gross income. That's after we realize how much money we're really getting. Potential, don't forget, is the one we thought we were getting because we got 100 units. No, the effective is what we're really getting when we're looking at vacancy. And then when you take your costs for running the place out of that number, then we end up with an NOI, and it's a really key metric. A lot of owners need to know what that is. What am I making after I've run the place and collected my rents? A lot of owners are looking for that. Now, here's where we're going to start our fight. Capital expenditure reserves should be subtracted from your effective gross income to render a more accurate indicator of net cash flows. Who disagrees with this statement? Some of you are going to disagree with this statement, and we had us a nice big back and forth.
So question, because those expenses are projected and might not always be exact, how does that come into play? I don't disagree with.
Boy. Yeah, we had us a nice discussion. And the person who wrote your book, as a matter of the way and there were several he's, and I think maybe a she who participated in writing the book, practiced this way. And a lot of people represent owners who will not take capital expenditures out. So let me get you down the line. I'm going to show you a little something, because we have to have this conversation. Where's I'm gonna move forward, and then I want to get you some information about that to answer your question. And Hillary needs to get back in the room. Here we go. Let me show you your net operating income, just with the color coding in place. Let me just show you this and try not to confuse you too much. Our effective gross income, that was the money we got after we looked at vacancy and people who failed to pay rent, was $1,622,000. But then when we included our operating expenses of $450,000 and our annual capital expenditure reserve allowance of $50,000, they wanted to pull to the side $50,000, it got even lower. The number got lower. So our effective gross income We're subtracting the money we spent to operate the place, plus the money we thought we'd need to repair big things later. And then we got ourselves an NOI. Some people don't want to remove this number for the exact reason someone just said. Capital expenditures are what we think we might need to spend, not what we actually spent. And therein lies part of our issue. Let me take you over here. We had us a big old fight, and traditional texts will say, do include operating expenses when you are calculating NOI, and do not include capital expenses and those reserves when you calculate your NOI. But why? Here we go. Why are we doing that? This is not in your book. Copy this if you feel like you need it. Operating expenses are what we're going to do Monday through Sunday to run a building. I know I'm running water. I know I'm running electricity. I know I've got a staff. I know I've got certain housekeeping bills and landscaping bills. And heck, I even have to pay the guy to put the replacement American flag out front. Those are our bills that we run to keep the thing going all the time. Capital expenditures are future expenses that may need to come into play. They may happen at once. They might not even happen at all during the 5 years we own the thing. We may never spend that 50 grand, even though we set it to the side. So some people don't want it put into the NOI because you didn't spend it. So we get into a little bit of a quandary. A wise investor, however, does need to be aware of the potential for certain major repairs. Awareness is half of the game, but pay attention to the fact that operating expenses are things that happen all the time. Capital expenses are things that might not happen at all.
So this is the reserves?
That's the reserve. We are putting money aside for something, let me back up. Whoops, that might not ever happen. We reserved it. And some people like to include that as an expense. Some do, some don't. So let me get you here. I found something interesting because we are not going to agree, Gabrielle and Kelia and Jeanette, in this room, Phil, we're not going to agree on which way is the right way because there isn't one. We're going to be a house divided in our discussion. So let me show you. I got a source down here and you can go look it up yourself. Understanding net operating income in commercial real estate. It was written back in 2014, but it still stands. And what he said was this: textbooks definitions of net operating income usually don't include reserves because analysts do include, don't include reserves in the NOI calculation. Many people do like to put them in. So the textbooks will tell you no, but a lot of investors say, yeah, put it in there. I need to know what potentially I'm going to be giving up, and I'd rather include that now than get shocked by it later.
There you go.
You don't want to get shocked by it later. So a lot of times, even though the expense never happened, what the heck? Include it in there. That way, if it does happen, if the elevator did break down, I was already aware of the fact that I might have had to give up 50 grand to fix it. Go and stick it in there anyway. It's that simple. And a lot of lenders, from what this gentleman says, will include the reserves for replacement into their calculations for NOI when they're looking at debt service coverage and maximum loan amounts. Now, my people who are in finance, is that something you do? Where's my buddy there? Where's our loan people? Do you do this in practice?
It depends on the CapEx that you're really, like a roof replacement typically will be added back in just because it's kind of a one-time expense over, God knows, 10, 20 years.
Exactly. This really is a matter of, do I want to get shocked later and change what I thought I was going to earn on this thing? Or do I just want to go ahead and give myself a worst case scenario. Let's just imagine I did have to spend the 50 grand. Stick it in there and let's get ready for it. And it's really that simple. Now I'm going to show you one more thing. And that's this last slide here, not in your book. Take a look at this. Where it is, go look up this LinkedIn conversation. There is an argument that went on, and this thing goes back to, I believe, 2013. People have been arguing about this for years. Do we add in reserves or do we not add in reserves? And no one has ever really agreed on it. All that to say, let your client drive the bus on this one. If they want it in there, then you're putting it in there. If they don't want to include the reserves, don't. If the lender says we need to see it, then that's what we do. If the lender doesn't care, then that's your client's call. But there were too many different ways to go with this for any of us to say, yeah, we're going to include it or no, we're not. Nikki, your puppy is so cute. Shelly is looking at puppies. That means it is time for a what?
Break.
Say it, y'all.
Break.
Break.
Ooh,
Shelly's
yeah.
looking at puppies. It's time for a break. Come on back 10 minutes after the hour, my friends. We're going into exam review, and you're out of here a little early if you come back on time. Hey, we're going to hit depreciation tomorrow. We're not going to overwhelm everybody with too much too fast. And Jency is looking for recommended lenders, my friends, recommended lenders. Oh, well, comment. Brad says this is where accounting and finance differ. Oh, Brad, I'm going to need you to talk about that. And someone called my name. I heard my name. Who was that?
I did, Lewis.
Lewis.
When you're doing leases, say just like storefront type leases, what's common when it comes to percentage commissions for?
Oh, hold on for a second. I'm going to put everyone on mute and then you open yourself back up for it. And let me just do that because some folks are about to tell all their business in their conversations. Hold on. Mute all. Okay, Lewis, first of all, we're in Texas, so we're not technically allowed to say.
Right. That's why I said common.
I like what you said. You said common. I like that. Yes, sir. What I find in my neck of the woods is that before residential agents started really getting in the business, on a lease, 4-5% of all base rents is what you earned. So you would count up the base rent that was going to be paid for the full term of the lease, 3 years, 5 years, count them all up, and you were getting 4%, maybe 5% of that. You weren't splitting it, you were getting it. Now, what's happened over time is we've got a lot of residential agents, which is why we're not too keen on that resimercial thing, who come in with that 3 mindset. And so when they go in negotiating their commissions, they're asking for 3%. And these guys who are used to paying 4 and 5 go, okay. And some of them even negotiate it down to a 2%. And you're thinking, well, that's not bad, so I'll go with it. Try not to if you can. Old school, many of us were at 4 and 5% for just your typical, 3 to 5 year office or retail lease. But there is no one size fits all. I've seen folks get 6%. And yes, and it does depend on the side of the transaction you're on. Are you salaried? Just what are you doing? So it is negotiable. You fight for what you think it's worth.
So it's a little bit different from residential, whereas you're not going to be able to go on the website and they're going to tell you what they're offering.
Not often, not really. And back to early in the class, if someone verbalizes to you, oh, yeah, we're doing 4% of base rents. If they said it to you and you never saw it in writing, you got to go back and get that in writing. And one of the ways that I have done that successfully is just saying, hey, look, I appreciated yesterday's property tour. I'm really super busy right now. And I forgot what you said about commission. Can you refresh my memory? And get them to respond in an email so you have something.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, just do what you can. But like everybody says, you got different sides that you're sitting on here. Let's see, 2 different views. Yeah, there's so much to know. Really quick formula for commission would be helpful. Buying versus operating, both are important. Oh, there's so much to know, isn't there? And then let me see, Peggy. Let me see if I can put. Hey, Austin, tell Chandra what's up.
I will definitely. She's
you.
our new director at KW Commercial Clear Lake.
Oh, tell her love, love, love. Thank you.
Yeah,
You
she's
can
doing a great job. Yeah.
Hey, thanks for answering the question for me because I was right in the middle of typing, but you know what? Patrick got it. So I'm gonna let Patrick have it. Delete. Thank you, Patrick. Okay, we got about 8 minutes left on break. I'll be right back, and then we're gonna be done pretty doggone soon. As soon as we come back, your cell phones are going to be needed when we come out of break. Patrick, I'm gonna cut you a small check when we're done. Cut you a small check there. To all the monitors and proctors, for monitors and proctors, we're on the last leg of class and we are going to be in line for early dismissal within TREC requirements, of course, but still, we're not going to linger until 5 o'clock. So proctors and monitors, when we come out of break, if you have announcements, that's going to be your moment to share with your respective members there. So just be ready for that when we come out of break. Oh, I can't read. Ugh. All right, everybody, get ready to come on back. And proctors and monitors, now is your time. Are there any final announcements from proctors and monitors to anyone that registered through you or for your board members? Anything you need to share?
Nothing from Margaret.
Fort Worth, I've sent an email to your email for the sign in for tomorrow. It's a different link, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yeah, I was gonna let HAR know that as well. After class
Yeah.
gets out, I'll be sending the next email and it'll be a different link for tomorrow.
Yes.
So that no one goes back to the first one.
Correct.
I emailed all my Williamson County people as well. Different link.
Metrotex, you got that message, right?
Looks like everybody made their announcements. I want to ask your forgiveness. I'm printing something in the background. Any other monitors have anything else to share, say, and announcements or whatnot? Okay, guys, I'm going to be done printing in just a second. That's your exam actually printing behind me. If you know me, you know I'm notorious for flashing the exam on the screen. Metrotex needs a repeat of the announcement.
You're gonna get a new link for tomorrow. It was just the same as what everybody else had said, so I didn't want to have to repeat myself. Sorry if that was confusing.
No worries there. And by the way, guys, I'm going to back up one slide. I'm going to show you a little something really quickly. Just go backwards one.
I have a question.
Let me just show you this one thing and then we're free to have questions on the table. I'm just going to put this up there because I need you to see this, particularly because it does contain information that will be on the exam. But your commissions, as far as expenses go, in the investor, well, you know, it is an expense. We are an expense. But per your book, it says for the investor, adjustments to cash flow after our NOI is calculated, where we're going to see commissions accounted for. And I did want to note that someone, was it Brad? I do appreciate what Brad had put in the chat earlier. Did you want to share a little bit about what you meant? You were saying that accounting and finance, or there was something you put in there, was just really different. And I appreciated what you were saying. Brad, you want to open up for a second?
Sure, I guess. Mute yours for a second. Okay. So my education's in finance and economics, and basically to bring it down simply, accounting has to do more with the history of money and moving it between different accounts for different purposes. Finance is more, what are you going to do with the money that you have and planning for the future and offsetting certain risks. The finance department and the accounting department don't always agree because they're looking at it through different lenses. So with the whole CapEx question, to me, it's more, how is the individual investor through their lenses, how are they looking at planning for risk, planning for the future, and any unforeseen, difficulties with the property or whatever. So that's kind of where I was getting at with that. It's just, you've got to look at finance and accounting in two separate realms.
I like it. I do. Where were you in our first iteration? If I tell you, it was a little bit of a smackdown up in here, and I had to go dig that out and mention it in the second section or second day or something, to kind of bring that down, because some people were convinced that the text was wrong. And that's why we started off with the please don't say it's wrong. Be shocked at what investors want to do that might not make any sense to you. So it's not your wheelhouse. Definitely ask for an explanation. And to everybody today who contributed, added things, shared their input, all the co-teachers up in here today, thank you so much for making this an easier day for everyone. You should see some of the stuff that I have in the chat privately. Many, many people appreciated all the stuff y'all shared. So thank you for your help. Now, I want you all to take a look at, let me see if I can get it up on the screen. Get your cell phones back out. Go back to that text message that you had. You don't need to press any buttons, but we're going to do a little exam review. So let's make sure that you are back in that text message. You don't need to do anything new. Once you've already done this today, you're good today. So we're going to do our exam our review this way, and we're going to do it semi-quietly, which means, yes, DeCarla.
I cannot seem to access this. I've tried several times.
Your phone, through the company you have, may be one of those that locks you out of the ability to use a 5-digit number, because many times there's an expense associated with using 5-digit numbers. Now, in this case, there's not an expense, but even my phone back in the day was associated with those, and my T-Mobile carrier locked me out of that. They had to open up my phone so I could access it.
I keep clicking that it's not recognizing my username. What username should we use?
You didn't need to click anything. You just needed to send a text message and get a response back, and see at the bottom it says, don't click anything. Nope. You just get your text message back, and then from then on, you'll either type in an A, B, C, or whatever the thing required. So back to your text. Yeah, you should be good to go. So guys, what we're going to do is we're going to take this exam semi-quietly. I'm going to leave you to your own devices to look at the question and see what you would have said. Verbally, we're going to hit it out loud together. But this is just going to see where you all are. So how do you answer the question? And by the way, you can photograph that if you want to, but that ain't how it's written on your exam. So if you think you're looking at an exam question, you're not. Just FYI. So let's see. The poll is full because there are more of you than I have spaces available, but the correct answer here, why do some investors choose real estate? And 60% of you got it right. B, income from appreciation. C, income from cash flows. And D, tax breaks. It was not all of the above because A, it's cheap, might not be true, okay? It might not be, it might be expensive as all get out. So B, C, and D were the answers here. One more time, those are not the exact answers on your exam. Just be aware that the context is the same. How about this one? What's an illiquid asset? Now, we didn't hit that one heavily, but what is it?
C.
Whoops. What kinds of things are considered illiquid while the exam is on the floor? Let's see, lock it up. C and D, things that are illiquid. And I've got commercial real estate and residential real estate. Hold on one second. The reason for this is because I can use a stock or a savings deposit quickly. Commercial and residential take a minute to move. I can't jump up and say, hey, I need to make some money, hurry up and sell that office building today. Can't do it. It's illiquid. I can't liquidate an office building now. And I can dump some stock now, but I can't do that with these properties. So your illiquid assets are things like real estate. And that's why that's the answer. We didn't cover it heavily, but I'm impressed for those of you who did get it. CIM Institute, what does that sucker do? What does it do? All right, we are locked out. Correct answer is all the above. Yes, it's a big deal in commercial real estate, and it really is. Who called it the Cadillac? It really is the Cadillac of commercial real estate. Someone sees the CCIM behind your name, you're pretty big stuff. It does offer advanced classes and networking opportunities, and I mean some really good networking, and it does award the designation to those who qualify. So there you go, all of the above. That really is on your exam, my friends. Next question. What do you need that license to do? Interesting. A real estate salesperson's license, and I mentioned it and I ran past it. It's needed to do, dun, 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 dun. collect rent. I mentioned it earlier. You can be hired directly by the owner, but if you're collecting rent,
Hey, Angelo.
whoa, hey, Angelo. That was our buddy Severa there. You need that license if you're going to collect.
Sorry.
Wait a minute. So, Mish,
Yeah.
being in the apartment industry for for so many years, I know that property managers collect rent and they do not have a license.
Oh, I know. That doesn't mean they're doing it right.
Well, no, because in Texas, it's not, you don't have to have a license.
Yes, you do now. It changed.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. Things change. And it was recent. It's very recent because to your point, lots of us did it for years, me included, without that license. It changed. Yes, ma'am.
Do you still need, I don't think you need a license if you're on site officed out of the same location.
If
Oh,
you're
did that
collecting
change?
rent, if you are pulling in someone else's money, you do now. If you're collecting rent, it didn't mean operating the property, doing all kinds of other things. But if you're responsible for that rent, license in place. And it is new. It is relatively new. I think you'll even get that now. What is it legal and ethics or something? You'll see that as part of the new curriculum as well. You need it now. So
even if you're employed by the owner?
Yep.
Wow.
Want you to have that license. They don't want you collecting that rent. Now listen, if that's your daddy's property and that's your family, that's what y'all are doing. But seriously, if you're working for a third party with whom you are not related, yes, you need to have a license to do so. All right, let's march forward. Here we go. What's considered a good use of a client's time? Read carefully. Good use of their time would be all of that. Being able to calculate the true cost of owning and operating an investment property. That way we don't waste time looking at stuff if it's not worth it. Assessing their deal breakers versus their preferences. Somebody else gave that a different name earlier. What was it again? Negotiables versus non-negotiables?
Negotiables, yes.
I loved that. And then being respectful of their time. If you all hadn't figured it out, some folks are moving a mile a minute. You need to respect that if that's their situation. Which of these shows how well an investment is performing, considering expenses too? Give you a few more of your time to answer. It looks like the consensus is the right answer. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. It is rate of return or return on investment. We're going to look at that tomorrow in a little more detail because those two are used interchangeably in your book. All right, let's keep moving, but don't forget that for the exam. Which business structure doesn't limit the owner's personal liability? Which one does not limit their liability? And many of you already got it right. I am never a fan of an exam question where the not and the don't and the except, and I hate questions that are asked that way, but you'll see that quite often on the exam. The one that does not limit how liable you are for what happens in your real estate business is a sole proprietorship. You are liable for anything anyone can think of. How about this one? Experienced commercial real estate practitioners may further their careers as what? Later on, after they've been in the business for a while, what might they want to do? We saw a twofold answer on the screen. It was a two-parter, and it was they might decide they want to be a consultant or even a facilities manager. These two things might decide they want to do these after they've moved on in their careers later. I just want to consult. I don't want to run the property anymore. I just want to manage the people. I don't necessarily want to be boots on the ground anymore. What situation can create higher investment risks? Take a read. higher risk? Well, we're going to need to go back and review that. All right. A and D. Negative leverage is also definitely a high risk there. I mean, why would you want to unless you knew you can turn that around? Or when there are high leverage ratios in place. So positive leverage, not a lot of risk there. We're getting good money back for that thing. Average leverage just means, well, you know, nothing's really, if we're neutral, nothing's happening. So the risk is neutralized here. We're looking at negative or high ratios. Looking at lots of different opportunities, which one of these things might not be a factor when we're looking at lots of investment opportunities? Are we looking at liquidity? Which one are we not looking at? We're looking at all of this. One of the things about this question, and I'm not a fan of it, but it's in here for a reason, because many of your exam questions are written so that it says, when looking at multiple investment opportunities, which one of these things won't you look at? The truth is you will look at all of those things. I'm not a fan of how these questions can be written, but I want you to know, just because you saw a bunch of phrases that made sense, you got to be aware that the question can be written in a tricky fashion. So for those of you who did do the reading, awesome stuff. For about 20% of you, be cautious. Be sure to read the full question. Take your time. You've got 90 minutes to take this test. How about this one? What
What I always do on those non or not is I don't even consider the not. I usually even cover it up and I just consider what are the actual things that would be the truth versus what the not is.
Exactly. And whatever it takes for you to get through it, but I do want you all, don't breeze through any question looking for keywords, because even the way I wrote the question here is not how it is on the exam, and I may have reversed it. So I just want you to get accustomed to what you see here, because this is not what you're going to see exactly on the exam. What factor in a return on investment makes commercial real estate an effective investment? Cash flow, all of the above? Bam, cash flow. It's already an illiquid asset, so that doesn't make it necessary an effective investment. We're looking at return on investment. So we're looking at our cash flows, and that's how you'll answer this question. And let me back that up. I want y'all to just eyeball this just real quick. Eyeball it, study it, catch it. What makes commercial real estate an effective investment? And it's the cash flow. That's what it was truly asking you. What makes commercial real estate an effective investment? Cash flow. What am I getting back for it? That's why that's the answer here. All right, let me move forward one more. What should we do with rent abatements when we're looking at that effective gross income? Don't forget your real estate stack. An effective gross income was what we did after we looked at potential gross income. We subtracted vacancy. So what should we do with rent abatements? All right, waiting for us to lock up. Interestingly enough, rent abatements, when we're looking at effective gross income, it's interesting. We should have, I wondered if anybody was going to catch it, and I'm going to go ahead and fix it. You all know what that question should have said, right? Who caught it?
You mean like concession?
Say it again.
You mean like the word concession instead of a rent abatement?
Nope. What we're looking at here is we're looking at rent abatements, and rent abatements are when I gave you some free rent, for example, went ahead and said, look, I'll give you 2 months of free rent, let y'all in there and not pay. And so when we're looking at effective gross income, that's how much I got, but we're going to subtract rent abatements from that number because effective gross income didn't account for free rent. Effective gross income only accounted for vacancy and people who didn't pay even though they occupy. We're gonna have to take out free rent from effective gross income. So I just want y'all to understand what that's about. Effective gross income is what I have after I counted up all my doors, counted up how much rent per door I expect. I make some concessions for vacancy. I make some concessions for people who just are not paying me rent. I end up with EGI. Then I have to go back and go, well, crap, I forgot. I gave 10 people 1 month of free rent. And you got to remove rent from there, that abatement from there. So that's what that's about. You're taking out the rent abatements, basically free rent from your effective gross number. Uh-oh, there we go. Now, I don't want to scare you. I'm not trying to frighten you. Move slow. If our effective gross income, $650,000, and I'm saving 15 grand, I'm pulling out 15 grand on the side because I think I'm gonna spend that on some capital improvements and $200,000 in running the joint, how much am I really running out of there with? You did it right. Just for anybody who didn't catch this and go ahead and record me saying it, write it down. Listen, this is real easy. You take 650, you subtract the 15,000, subtract the 200,000, there's your number. That's about as heavy as we're getting in math on this exam. Is everyone's nerves back down? Is everyone's nerves okay? Is that easy? So I know I hit you with some formulas earlier, but is that easy? All right, that's about as deep as we're getting on the exam now. Now, that's not the exact number set that you're going to get, but that's about as hard as it's going to be. And our commissions, yes, yes, yes. When do we adjust them? When do we make adjustments for commissions when we're looking at the expenses on the property? Bum, bum, bum. None of those were the answer. Dang darn it. Let me get you back to that last slide and show it to you one more time, my friends. Here we go. After NOI. Afterwards, you get your NOI and then you start sucking out your commissions. We're not counting you in there. The landlord may actually put their own tenants in there and you may never come into play, but there you go. So what you all have done is a full day with me and you've been blessed with a half an hour of your own time to get back to your life. We are done for the day. Now, here's what we're doing. We're doing this again in the morning. We're doing an exam review, but for now, you hung in there with me. You have the right to go. Y'all have an amazing day. Text me if you need me. Call me if you need me. I'll see you in the morning.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you, Mitch.
Sign out for Har.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all. Enjoy
Bye,
your
thank
extra
you.
time.
Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Don't forget to save the chat. Thanks so much.
How do you save the chat? Can you save it?
And no need to sign out. Or
The three dots down there where it says type message here, or it says file, and the three dots, hit on that and you can save the chat.
Oh, yeah, because all
Okay.
those contact information is in there.
There's a lot of data today.
How is scanning out or not scanning out?
I'll be checking you out if you're HAR.
Okay.
What if you're not?
Yay,
If you
thanks,
signed
Adam.
up through HAR, I'll be checking you out also.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Hey,
should have
Adam.
phrased that
No,
different.
no, no problem.
Thanks, Adam. I love the comment.
Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, man.
Love it.
Amanda, this is Jason. Am I signed out?
I'm going to go through and sign everybody out.
Oh, you rock. Thank you so much.
You're
Amanda.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank y'all. Have a good evening.
Thanks, Mitch. Ciao.
Bye, guys.
Mish, what is the name of that article you talked about that had the trends in
Finance? The trends
Yeah.
of finance?
I believe, yeah, trends in financing. Uh-huh.
Way up at the top. Hold on, I'm scrolling up there now. Hold on. Boop. And it was, I'm a visual person. I know what the slide looked like. Hold on one second.
Those are a lot of slides.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if you know this, but I've designed more than 1,500 plus slides for this entire 12 course series. When I tell you I'm entitled to a typo, I am entitled to a typo.
That means we have to send you 1,500 individual chocolates.
Yeah, I'll take them. I will. Let me find that slide. I'm almost there. Hold on. It's down here somewhere.
Out of curiosity. Sounds
Trends and
interesting.
Where'd that sucker go?
When they project these trends, how far out are they looking? Or just
That article, I think I dated it. Dang darn it, I don't even see it. There it is. And then the actual article, let me go back so you can get the name of it. There.
let me take a picture of that. Okay.
Sure. This was done February 7th, 2020. And what was interesting about the article was this is pre-COVID. So to see what this said versus what happened made this interesting to me.
Interesting.
So
What it
do they,
said.
Next slide, just so I can take a picture of that real quick.
Sure, sure.
Okay.
so we
cool.
don't take any tests today. We will have one on Friday.
Next week, not
Oh,
tomorrow.
next week.
Next week. We're gonna review so much. You're gonna be great. Now you all cannot possibly be wanting to hang out with me. You can't. You must go home. All of you. Scooch. And then tomorrow, if it'll be Friday, we'll go over the offer memorandum for those of you who want to see it.
Thank you. That sounds fun. Looking forward to
Okay. Yeah, we will. We'll have a little fun tomorrow. In the book, NOI. Yeah. Brandon, we'll do it tomorrow. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for
Let
the
me put
class.
this back up for you too. Take a look at this again. Hold on. Let me put that back up.
Thank you very much for the class.
No, you are so welcome. Take a picture of this. I want you to catch it because you need it. There's too much stuff thrown at you in one day. I know that.
Is there any way that we can review those questions on the test?
We're doing it again tomorrow. Yes.
Okay.
We're going to do it every day until you take the test. Again and again and again. Yes.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're so welcome. And then my friend Brandon, did you catch this stack?
Yes, hi, Miss. I just wanted to mention that what I was trying to say is that on that question in the survey, the result was you were subtracting the capex versus the books that should be plus of capex to get the NOI.
Oh, you know what? That could be one of my typos. I'll go back and check.
Okay.
In the book. You said it's in the book?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, but
Can
I
you
saw
email
the
that to me?
capex- I'm sorry, I just saw that wouldn't capex be under a line outside the NOI?
Wait, say, would the capex be what?
Would be under the line, which means that it's outside of the net operating income calculation.
See, that's kind of what we were talking about, is the fact that it depends on who you're working with and how they want to look at that. There was no right answer. You might absolutely be correct. It might be below the line for NOI. It might be above the line. You're absolutely correct in what you're asking.
Okay, but for this course purpose and for exam, if that comes up, we should take that into consideration and subtract the capex to get it.
Yeah, and in the exam, it wants to, well, in the book, it wants to tell you, go ahead and remove capital expenditure reserves along with daily operating expenses when you're calculating for your net operating income. It wants you to.
Okay, for the reserve point of view, I got you. But
Yeah, it
if you have
wants
a
you to.
reserve of 20,000, but you actually had a capital expenditure of 100,000, that's separate.
It might, well, let me see. I think in the book, the example was 20,000 or something, or 50,000 for capital expenditures that you might be spending. And it went into calculating the net operating income. Some people say, no, you don't put that up there because you haven't actually spent it. Some people say, better safe than sorry, put it in there anyway.
Gotcha.
Because you might spend it.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, It's an argument we'll never settle. It's going to be something your investor client will tell you how they want to do it. Awesome. All right. I'm ripping off the Band-Aid. Proctors, are we ready to shut her down?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm shutting her down. Y'all have a great evening. Bye, guys.
Bye, Mish.
Bye.
Thank you.